Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Saturday, so you know what it is. It's Saturday night Shoot the Breeze time. I want to thank everyone who participated last week, both in the chat and on the panel. We had a great discussion last week. In fact, we didn't even get through all of the topics that we had slated. So this week, we're going to bring back two of the topics that we did not get to. While you're at it, if you can hear my voice, drop a 1 in the chat for me. Let me know that I'm being heard across the digital airwaves of YouTube, as they say. Drop a 1 for me if I am being heard out there. Also, make sure you hit the like button and share the show on your social media. I don't think anyone is with us yet, but drop a like. Oh, yeah, Trigger Happy is here. You see, this is the funny thing. So Trigger is here. He dropped a 1. Thank you for that. Meanwhile, this thing is telling me I have 0 people watching. Interesting. I heard Bakari talk about that this week as well. YouTube plays a lot of games with content creators. In any event, you know what I do. I come on here early before we officially start this show to let you guys know what we have in store tonight. Like I said, we didn't get through all conversations last week, but we'll try to get through the ones that we missed from last week. We'll try to get through those early this week, and we have other topics as well. What we're going to talk about this week is a Haitian national speaking on U.S. imperialism in her country and Kenya's role in it. We're going to have a Shoot the Breeze topic that's a SANKOFA topic. I plan to make this a thing now. SANKOFA topic, the African origins of Black music. I have a couple of good links for that as well. We're going to talk about Rabbi Solomon Friedman. Explains his strategy to normalize pornography in the West. We're going to talk about the male voter hopped up on that FBA drug. That's an interesting prompt right there. One of our topics tonight is going to be We Stand with KEMI SEBA. So that's the 5 intended topics for tonight. We Stand with KEMI SEBA is an important one. And we're going to do our shout outs. I have a special shout out to give tonight as well. So what I'll do now is I'll start the show officially. While I do that, like I said, hit the like button, share the show to your socials, invite some family members to sit with you, and you guys have a discussion as we have this discussion on this panel. All right? So you guys do stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the revolutionary matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Make sure you're also tuned in to Brother Bakari's podcast. Make sure you're tuned into Kofi the Black Critic. Make sure you're tuned into the Forecast Radio, who's usually on with Realm in the Bush. Check all of them out. Make sure you subscribe to their channels. And do me an added favor, too. Subscribe to the Shoot the Breeze Clips channel as well. I have it pinned to the top of the chat. Subscribe to that. I found an interesting way on how to engage with other people when we use their clips on Shoot the Breeze. So subscribe to that. You guys will see some things happening over there as well. In the chat, I see Daily Affirmation by Pauline saying good evening. Good evening to you, my dear. Anthony McPhail is out there. He says peace to us, to the KWAZ radio family, and he says he'll be on in a few. I look forward to your participation. Actually, some of these prompts tonight is for you to, it's for Anthony to quarterback, to be honest, or to anchor, I should say. So, looking forward to having you join us tonight. If you guys want to join the panel, just click the link that's at the top of the chat. It's pinned to the top of the chat, as well as the other links to subscribe to the Shoot the Breeze Clips channel and to join the Discord, etc. And there's also my Cash App. If you guys want to show some appreciation, hit the Cash App, as Brother Bakari would say. In the meantime, let me introduce my first and only panelist for the night. That will be Buana. Buana, how are you this week?
Koku, can you hear me tonight?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, hopefully we have a good night tonight, because last week it was kind of a shit show, possibly because of the hurricane, and hopefully Black Steel is okay in South Florida, and everyone else who's in the South. I think Anthony is in the South as well, in Louisiana. I don't know if the hurricane hit him as well, but shout out to everyone. You know, we're gonna have a great night tonight.
Yes, I appreciate you being here, Buana. And without further ado, no one else is here right now, but let's not hold up the show. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number one tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number one says a Haitian national on U.S. imperialism in her country and Kenya's role in it. This takes us to Twitter, it looks like. Let's go to Twitter here. So this is from Mizalendo Elisi Foundation. It has the same title that I just read, a Haitian national on U.S. imperialism in her country and Kenya's role in it. It's about almost a 5-minute video. What we'll do is we'll watch it. Let me make sure it's right. We'll watch it and then we'll comment.
What we have is the U.S. has been wanting. One of the key things to understand is that I'm not sure people know that Haiti is the first free Black republic in the world, 223 years. And because of that history, because of defeating Napoleon and defeating the West, it's been paying for that. This isn't what we call it. And so the past 20 years after the deposing of our president, the U.S. has complete control through the UN apparatus and other minions, France and Canada, over Haitian politics. So by the time we get to Kenya's involvement in Haiti, what we have is the U.S. had been wanting to have a military presence in Haiti for a very long time. They wanted the military base from the 1800s. But in 2022, when there were government protests against IMF, removal of subsidies, against U.S. imperial meddling, constant imperial meddling, what ended up happening was that the U.S. wanted to find a force, a similar military force, to support its puppet that it had in place in 2022. When the Security Council, when China and Russia refused sending a military force, saying this is not a civil war, there's no civil war going on in Haiti, the U.S. then settled for this multinational mission, which I have to remind people is not a UN mission. It's sanctioned by the UN, but it's a U.S. paid mission, which effectively means that the U.S. is paying mercenaries to go to Haiti to establish its military base. And so, in fact, The Kenyans are warm bodies for U.S. imperialism, warm bodies as the U.S. expand its physical presence in Haiti and establish a base as it prepares to go to war with China. And what people don't understand is that Haiti is in the trade winds area, geographically located there. The U.S. wants to use that presence there not only to go against the leftist governments in Latin America, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba, but to also establish a place where its boats can go through Haiti if it has a military presence there, go through the Panama Canal, and go hit China when the time comes. So Kenya comes into this place in the middle of U.S. imperial machinations in the region, and they're being used as a proxy service for U.S. imperial role in the area. And if that itself is a problem, because Haiti is not at a civil war, but because the West controls the media apparatus, as you know, most of the world gets their news from Reuters, Voice of America, CNN, and BBC, right? And so when you read that, you think the worst place in the world right now is in Haiti. You think that this country is burning up in flames because they manufacture consent. When the reality is, like, these armed groups, there are more gangs in Chicago in the US than there are in Haiti. The violence that you see that the media props up happens only in the capital city of a country that's 12 million people. The capital city has about 2 million people. When you have Mexican cartels, when you have gangs in Ecuador, when you have a genocide happening in Gaza, everyone's saying Haiti is the problem to the international community. So we have to really think about, why is it that the U.S. is going through so much trouble to manufacture consent and make everyone think that Haiti is the worst place to be in order to send a military occupation when, you know, things are happening in other places of the world. And they're not doing that, right? Yeah. And so what I want Kenyans to see is really question this idea that Haiti, for example, needs military occupation. Haitians are completely against foreign military intervention because we have a long history of intervention. And so Haitians are completely against U.S. imperialism, them being used as fodder. And so Kenya comes in, and I want people to know, like, why is it that Kenya, for example, did not have bilateral relations with Haiti until last year? If Ruto is really serious about saying, well, we're helping our brothers and sisters, why is it's after the U.S. asked them to, that he decided to have bilateral relations in Haiti? Why is it that he doesn't think, well, maybe the region, there are other people in the region that can come help Haiti? Why is it that it's the U.S. military that takes around the soldiers? Why is it that's the U.S. paying Kenyans $600 million? This is mercenary. This is not Pan-Africanism. This is not bilateral relations. There's no legitimate government to actually even ask Kenya to bring in its force to Haiti. And we need to know, what does this mean in this age of increasing multipolarity? Why allow yourself to be used as a proxy for U.S. imperialism against another Black country?
That was so well stated. Let me just make sure there's not more to it. In fact, let me look at some of the comments. DC Matthew says, I am sorry to say it, but no one should pay this woman any attention. She is consumed by anti-Americanism. I keep waiting, and this is a Black person, by the way, I keep waiting to hear some sort of sympathy for the Haitians suffering because of the gangs, but I never hear it. Her view is, if the U.S. is involved, it can't be good. And the poster of this video says anti-Americanism is good.
One of the key things to understand.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I just would like to add that as Buana has to do something and come back, I'll just like to add that sometimes I hear it here on Shoot the Breeze, actually. I hear people say, well, I understand why our folks sell drugs and stuff in the community, this, that, and the other. Well, if you understand that, then you should be sympathetic to Kenya. Because all of it is sellout behavior. All of it is sellout behavior and anti-African behavior, right? But I digress. I'm not going to go on a whole tangent there. But let me start with Black Steel. Well, first of all, let me introduce Black Steel. Black Steel, how are you this week?
I'm doing good, Koku. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming through. How's the weather there?
It's actually quite beautiful, man. It's like probably it was like 70 degrees today, which is actually quite pleasant for Florida. Had a nice breeze. It's nice today. Good day. Good day.
All right. I'll come right back to you, Black Steel. Let me introduce Anthony to the panel tonight. Anthony, how are you this week?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Good, good. How's
Can you hear me?
everything down there? Yes, sir. How's everything where you are?
Man, it was pretty good, man. 80 degrees, man. The sun came out. I can't complain. And
Good,
peace to all
good.
other brothers on the panel, too, man.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Thank you for coming through as well. Let me start with Black Steel then. Black Steel, a Haitian national and U.S. imperialism in her country and Kenya's role in it. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I can't say she's wrong. I believe I'm glad she's connecting the dots between the invasion of, well, we'll call it, between United States using Kenya as a proxy and the further goals of U.S. imperialism. I'm glad she mentioned the attack on China, because the United States has what they call a pivot to Asia. And so they expect to go, they wish to go to war with China by the year 2030, all right? Because the United States wants full spectrum dominance, which is complete control over the land, air, sea, and space. That's the desire of the United States. They want to remain the world's sole superpower. They don't. Ever since the fall of the Soviet Union in the 1990s, the United States has been the world's sole superpower. This is the state of affairs they want to continue. So any country that could be seen as a threat to their full spectrum dominance is seen as a threat and will be attacked. And they will manufacture consent to go to war with any country. So we see, the build up to the war with China, uh, and Haiti is a part of that. They want control over the Caribbean basin. They see China influencing economically a lot of Caribbean countries. They can't have that. So the desire is to subjugate Haiti, which, it's always been a part of the desire to keep Haiti pliant, right? They're going to keep the people they want in charge. They're going to have the forces they need to have in the country, and to keep the people oppressed and struggling. So but the thing is, the optics look bad. Haiti has been suffering from outside intervention for centuries. So the United States wishes to appear to be somewhat benevolent. So instead of them doing it, they get their proxy, which is Kenya, to do the dirty work for them. So you look like you have a black nation helping out another black nation, air quotes, Pan-Africanism. When reality, the Kenyans function as the lapdog of the United States, because they're very much tied to the U.S. economically, militarily. How many U.S. military bases are in Kenya? How many treaties and deals does the U.S. have with Kenya? And we speak very positively about what's going on in Mali, Burkina Faso, but when they removed the drone base from, I believe it was Burkina Faso, the U.S. just moved the drone base to I think it was Ivory Coast. So because they have so many of these different countries that are beholden to the U.S. be rather economically and militarily, their function is to basically surround China, just like what they're doing with Russia. That's what the whole invasion of Ukraine is about. The idea is to surround Russia with countries that are friendly to the United States, countries that are a part of NATO, as a way to block them off. That's what they're doing with the Middle East. And the idea is to keep China, which is they feel is their number one threat, as a rising country, keep them isolated, keep them separated to prepare for war. Unfortunately, this is a war that could engulf and could destroy all of humanity. All right, these are two nuclear powers, and the thing about nukes is you don't use nukes because you could kill everybody, and they're well aware of the potential for global destruction, but they would rather destroy the world than let another country reach their level. But going back to Haiti, you have to feel for the Haitian people, right? And also too, you have to feel for the Kenyan people. The people of Kenya do not want this. I want that to be clear. The Kenyans are not supporting this military intervention being done on behalf of their nation. This is being done by their president, by their leaders who do not represent the will of the Kenyan people. They have, and the thing is that their leader, their president, I think his name Ruto, he has, in a sense, ignored the will of the Kenyan people, but they did not vote for it. I don't think they took a vote or a referendum on this decision. He just decided because he's in the pocket of the U.S. Many times it's not the Kenya people themselves, but it's their leaders that are causing the problem. So looking at it like that, I feel like overall, this is something that is a problem because the European white people America can weaponize our own African people against us via their proxies. And it's going to take a lot of Touré, the president of Burkina Faso. It's going to take a lot of brothers like him to organize and turn this thing around. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, my computer's active. Yeah, I appreciate that, Black Steel. Let me hear from Anthony next on this one.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Coco?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know I was having a problem. Okay. I mean, I pretty much agree with everything Black Steel says, man. I mean, he pretty much covered it. And yeah. And especially that part about the Kenyan people, this not being the will of the Kenyan people. They don't want that. I mean, they've actually been protesting it, you know what I'm saying? Along with the other problems that they have in the country. But I mean, when it comes to a country like Kenya, I mean the government in Kenya, they've been in the back pocket of the West for ever since the independence, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we go back to President Jomo Kenyatta, he was a puppet. You know what I'm saying? He presented their face as one of the grand old men of Africa and everything, but he was a straight puppet. Time he became president, he was working with them. You know what I'm saying? But and it's basically the same people that's in office right now. But I like what Black Steel was saying about the conflict. The conflict that the future war, the potential of a war with America and China. And now me personally, I feel like, I agree with everything that he said, but I think, yeah, at the end of the day, I think these white folks want to live too. You know what I'm saying? That's why they're gonna be no war. They pick on small countries. That's why they can go and pick on Haiti, but they go and pick on a small country like that. But they ain't gonna fight each other. China, Russia, ain't none gonna fight each other because they all got the same shit. And they can all kill it. Everybody can kill everybody. You know what I mean? Ain't gonna be no winner. But yeah, but basically, I pretty much agree with everything Black Steel said.
I appreciate that, Anthony. Yeah, one of the things she mentioned that Black Steel took note of, and I appreciate that, is those waterways. I talked about that a long time ago when I talked about the Monroe Doctrine. Those waterways around the Caribbean are super important for America to kind of sustain itself. And those waterways around Haiti, Jamaica, the Bahamas are particularly important. And she mentions Panama with the canal. That allows them to get over to the east, pretty easily. It's a very interesting concept, but I do agree with Anthony in that ultimately I don't think America really wants to have that problem with a nation like China and Russia and stuff like that. And like Anthony said, and I agree with him, that's why they pick on the little guy. I remember being a kid actually, when the U.S. Attacked Grenada, and even as a kid, I was able to look at this thing. I was watching Reagan talk about it, And I was watching him show the graphics of Grenada at the time. And I'm like, wait a minute. The U.S. is going to invade that little country? Like, come on, dog. Like what are we doing? What are we doing? So I agree with Anthony. They like to pick on little guys. And in fact, you know, they get that from the British too. When they talk about the British had defeated half of the world or whatever, the British was picking on little dudes, man. Picking on little folks who didn't even know they was in a war with Britain, so-called Great Britain. You know what I mean? So it's just more of the same going on here with the U.S. and Haiti. But, you know, to tie it back to what I said earlier, we can give a pass. And I know it's Kenya's leadership. It's not the Kenyan people as a whole. But we cannot give a pass to folks who do things against other Black Eagles African people. That goes to the things that happen within our communities, within our streets, within our blocks, and that goes on an international level as well. We cannot sit quietly and let those things happen. We cannot agree with it. We cannot go along to get along with it. In the chat, Trigger Ivy 262 plus earlier said they also want to destabilize China internally. Tibet, Taiwan, and Hong Kong are often targets. He goes on to say African unity can, in a sense, be enemy unity, in which your enemy is unifying various Black people for their interests. That's a very good point. And shout out to Brother Bakari. I saw him with his lovely family earlier today at a football game, a HBCU football game. So shout out to Brother Bakari. Peace and Black African power to you as well. With all that said, let's hear from Buana. Buana, what are your thoughts?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me clearly?
No, you're chopping up.
Are you serious? This is a new thing, man. Okay, go on ahead, brother, and I'll catch you in the next one. I'll try to go back on my laptop, but yes.
All right. Yeah, you were sounding fine when you were on earlier. I don't know what happened,
No,
but
the decided to slow down again for some reason, and I just want to hold up the show. But go ahead.
All right. Is there any last thoughts from either Black Steel or Anthony on this topic?
I just want to say, just thinking about this topic at hand. You said you don't think they would go to war. The Russians. So back during the Cold War, right? The Russians were very afraid of the Americans. They thought the United States was ran by psychopaths because there were many times. There was one particular incident where the Cuban, we talk about the Cuban Missile Crisis. The United States put nuclear, but Russia, Soviet Union, put nuclear weapons on the island of Cuba. With Cuba being only 90 miles from the United States, from Florida, they basically considered this an act of war. So this brought the world to the brink. It was the Russians who backed down. It wasn't the Americans. The Russians removed the nuclear weapons from Cuba, from the island of Cuba. And the reason that's so important is because the closer you are to that country, the lower your response time. So say they shoot a nuke from, say, Brazil, right? You probably got about 7-10 minutes to get into cover, right? You shoot a nuke from Cuba, you got like a minute or two before you can't really respond well enough. That's the same issue that the Russians have with Ukraine. Ukraine is so close to their border. Any nuclear missiles fired from Ukraine, it reduces the time that you have to respond to the attack. So I really do think that I don't want to estimate the psychotic nature of the United States. I truly believe they would rather destroy the world than allow another country to take over or to hold the same status as them. Haiti, unfortunately, is a pawn, but also too, Haiti is not so much a victim, but they have been caught in the crossfire between so-called great powers. And because of Haiti's strategic location, and two, because of what Haiti represents, which is the first Black republic in the Western Hemisphere, the first African nation or Black nation to free themselves from the yoke of slavery and imperialism. And Haiti is an example to the rest of the Black world. This is something that they cannot stand. You mentioned the invasion of Grenada. Grenada is not really strategically important in the scheme of things, but it's what Grenada represented. Grenada was a country that had a socialist economy with a majority Black nation, and it was doing well. And the one thing the U.S. hates is the threat of a good example. That's the reason why Cuba is embargoed. That's the reason why Venezuela has sanctions. That's the reason that Grenada was invaded, because the very idea of a good example to show that there is an alternative to what the West offers. They can't have that. And Haiti represents that in many, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Organization of Sahel States is going to come under more attack. We already see Africa Stream being taken off. We see the force. I hate to be all moralistic. It's called evil, but we see the forces of evil are consolidating their power. They're trying to end all dissent, and I think that if we don't do the same level of organizing we have to do, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
I agree with everything you said. I'm going to come to you next. I agree with everything you said, but in my memory, it was like Jose is saying. He said the USA is the one that backed down from Turkey. But Jose, you're free to come up if you want to before I move on to the next prompt. In the meantime, though, let me hear from Anthony. Anthony, what's it?
Yeah, Coco. That's what I wanted to touch on real quick. First, I just want to also say, today, October the 19th, this was the day that our ancestor Maurice Bishop, was assassinated too. I just wanted to mention that. Yeah,
that's my shout out.
And also, and also Samora Michelle in Mozambique too. And he was killed on October 19th, 1986, 3 years later. But what I wanted to say about what Brother Black Steel was saying, I actually seen this. I seen it on television where they had CIA, FBI, all these government officials was talking about that. For years, everybody thought that the Soviet Union had backed down, especially that commercial. That they had this guy. What was his name? He was like one of the American ambassadors or something. He said we were two people, we were two nations, eyeball to eyeball, and the other guy blinked. But actually, it wasn't like that. The Russians, the Soviet Union didn't back down. They actually had cut a deal. It was some kind of deal that they cut with Khrushchev, and it had something to do with Germany, because at that time Germany was divided, East Germany and West Germany, and they had the blockade on Berlin and all that. But all of the stuff tied together, and it was a compromise that they did. But it wasn't that the Soviet Union backed down. I seen this, which from American government officials said that. They said everybody thought the Soviet Union did not back down from that. They made a compromise. Kennedy made a compromise with them. I just want to throw that in.
I appreciate that. Anthony, Trigger Happy 262 Plus in the chat says, keep in mind that the USSR got destabilized internally by the United States as well. He says he's no fan of any of these countries, but it's always important to have a sober geopolitical analysis. He goes on to say, it's not even just nuclear weapons. If Ukraine joins NATO, Russia would have to start working overtime protecting their border, and it would cost even more for the military. Lastly, he says, NATO growing hurts Africa, which I agree. Let's check in with Buana again. Let's see if Buana got his sound together. Buana, what say you? Buana, you muted if you're talking.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all the brothers on the panel tonight who made commentary. Pretty good commentary, I would say. As far as what the brother Fidel Castro for the Americans. And I think that Khrushchev at the time, he was kind of like trying to back down Castro. So really in that scenario, it was Fidel Castro who was about that life. he was really about that life. That's interesting. Supporting you not only financially, but we are helping you technically in regards to food and aid and all these other things. So you got to back down Castro. You got to back down because he really wanted to press the button. You know what I mean? He was that kind of madman. In reference to Haiti, I always say this. Haiti's problem and internal one. The internal aspects of Haiti is causing a lot of the issues within Haiti themselves. The Haitian people have to decide collectively that we're going to do something about what's happening in the country. And they have, if you look at Haiti's history, in all the puppets or puppet regimes that has been set up within the country of Haiti themselves, the Haitian people got rid of these leaders. Many of those leaders left office running. Duvalier, many others, or Haitian people sometimes take care of the leaders, or say we democratically want to elect this, but the people you elect. So we gonna remove him. We're gonna remove a democratically elected leader. What I would say is Haiti's issue is an internal one, first and foremost, and I think that the Haitian government and leadership needs to get new friends. They've been having a relationship with the West for a very long time, and that Haitian government needs to get new friends and allies, whether it's with Russia or whether it's with China or some other global power, because I don't particularly agree with Black Steel when he suggests that America is the only superpower. No. China is just as much as a superpower as America is. And one nuke is just as good. You could have 100 nukes or 1,000 nukes. I just need 2 or 3, and have them reach the major global centers in your economy, Washington, D.C., New York City, and California. And that's all, and Washington. That's all I need is 4 to reach where you are. And I could change the state of affairs in your economy just as much as you could change the state of affairs in mine. We don't need 1,000 to change the world. So we are really on equal. China makes everything. They make and produce
Bonnie,
everything. And if they can't get the mineral resources, they could just go to their friends in Africa. So they are proven itself as useful, as we have been to them. We were in close relationship with England for years. They used to call us the common, up in Europe, called England. They only extracted our mineral resources, our bananas, our fruits, our agriculture, and everything else going to England. So they became practices the same kinds of principles and ideas. I'm saying that that we need to change the relationship. We need to change that paradigm and dynamic. It really needs to happen. Toot sweet. As far as this particular lady, Miss Pierre has said some things that I about the Bahamas, by the way.
Hold on. Is Juana chopping up or is it my computer?
It's
Juana's
Buana.
chopping up.
I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, Buana, you're chopping up a bit. If you could go and come back in, that would be great. I was curious to hear what you was going to say about what she said about the Bahamas, but your sound it has clarity for a few seconds and it'll chop. So if you could fix that, that'd be great. In the chat, Jose says NGO and small hat families owning their ports are rarely mentioned. That's true too. Talking about Haiti. Trigger Happy 262 Plus agrees with Black Steel. He said America is the only superpower. China is an emerging power that is surrounded by United States allies and military bases. Russia is right next to NATO, which is American allies. I wish Buana's sound wasn't chopping up so much. But between Black Steel and Anthony, do you guys have any last thoughts on this prompt? Hold on. Buana might be back. Let's see.
I'm good, man.
All right, Buana, finish your thought, please, so that we could go to the next prompt. Okay, maybe Buana didn't get his sound together yet. Good discussion.
I can hear you. I just don't have the best connection right now, so I'm in and out. So just bear with me. Bear with me.
Yeah. Okay. So last word on this. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says Russia and China, you could say, are regional powers that are semi-peripheral. The world is largely still unipolar. What we'll do, we'll go to Shooter Breeze topic number 2. Hopefully, we'll get Buana's full support in the next prompt. This is a SANKOFA prompt, and I want to try to bring these types of prompts every week. Something that we go back and we look at something that's traditionally African, and we try to bring it back either in practice or at the very least in memory. So Shooter Breeze topic number 2 says SANKOFA, the African origins of Black music. This takes us to a link on YouTube that what we'll do is we'll play the video, and this prompt actually has a few links to it, so bear with it. We'll play this first video and then I'll introduce the other 2 attachments.
Hi, I'm Darius Spearman and you're watching African Elements. Music has been a fundamental part of African and African American expression, tying together different elements of culture. In this episode, we look at how African music transcended the Atlantic slave trade and how elements of African music became infused into the antebellum slave plantations of the southern United States, becoming the foundation of Black music in America today. All that coming up. Welcome back to African Elements. If you're new to this channel, we create educational content for higher ed and make it accessible to the masses. That's possible largely thanks to my Patreon contributors who support this program. You can join them at the link below in the description for as little as $1 a month and receive access to ad-free content and exclusive videos and materials available only to Patreon members. Otherwise, to support this program, drop a like and subscribe and comment below if you'd like to see more of this content. With that out of the way, let's jump in. As we saw previously, culture can be understood as beliefs, practices, and modes of being of a particular people in a particular setting, adopted as a means of survival. Religion was a key part of African cultural life. West African religion in particular was believed to be infused with the music of life force and the natural beat. West African culture and music also became critical survival tools in the Americas. The rhythms of African music survived the transatlantic slave trade, appearing in the stylings of African American music. Specifically, sophisticated elements of offbeat rhythms found in African music emerged in the spirituals of the antebellum South, where music was played around the beat instead of on it, giving the feeling of the music surrounding the beat. The prison work songs recorded in the 1930s at Angola State Prison in Louisiana retain that feature. Historically, music has been an integral component of African and African American culture, manifesting in modes of worship, medicinal practices, ceremony, and in maintaining connections to our roots. Along with their culture, Africans who were taken to the Americas as slaves retained their musical constructs, rhythms, and even instruments. As such, elements of African music can be found in the slave plantations in the United States during the 18th and 19th centuries, where they reveal themselves in spirituals and the blues, which included cross rhythms and call and response techniques that were features of their African musical heritage.
Gospel music started in the field as slave songs and work songs, songs that many of you know, and people sing even with bands and so forth and so on today. But the slave wasn't allowed to sing in its natural tone, which would have been something like Chosa losa, pues untaba, semela se fumala de desea, something like that. They weren't allowed to. So they couldn't sing in their natural language or their native tone, so they were forced to sing like the people at the big house, where they would hear things like, De vieni alla finestra, o mio tesoro. So what happened is it changed. It changed into things like, Go lay down my burdens down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. Down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside. Oh, stay one
The folk songs of Southern Blacks emphasize the offbeat phrasing of percussion, along with the call and response phrasing typical of African music that became known as spirituals. Among the basic elements of African music that contributed to the creation of spirituals, at least 4 basic features of African music are found in African American sacred and secular musical styles. The complex rhythms or metronome sense, the dominance of the percussion, the offbeat phrasing of melodic accents, and the overlapping call and response patterns. In music, call and response works similarly to a conversation, where, in a combination of 2 distinct phrases, the first phrase serves as the call, Go lay down my burden, and the second phrase is the direct answer. Call and response became a fundamental feature of the spiritual that provided a pathway for African Americans to encode their stories. Their songs often focused on the book of Exodus and the story of deliverance from slavery in Egypt. This focus was a product of the infusion of Christian piety in the slave experience for persons of African descent, but it was just as much an expression of resistance that belied their literal desire for freedom underneath the metaphorical biblical passage. The use of cross rhythms, or conflicting rhythms occurring at the same time, was also a persistent characteristic found in African and African American music, and was often found in spiritual. Another musical style incorporated into African American music, the hot musical style, contained more compelling and driving rhythms and became a central part of the spiritual. It relied on the rhythms of each instrument or voice being steady and reliable, maintaining their own time signature. Use of the voice as the hot element in the spiritual provided the component that inspired a connection to God through music. The drum rhythms in hot music are reliable and steady, while the musical rhythms fall on a syncopated beat. The use of these cross rhythms, along with the percussive instrument, results in an abundance of musical accents, all of which are African features that have been consistently maintained in African American music. As we can see, spirituals contain many rhythmic elements preserved from their African heritage. Offbeat phrasing and call and response were two often incorporated components. The other musical type that developed among African Americans in the 19th century was the blues. Gerhard Kubrick identified musical traits from two different parts of Africa, which he suggested contributed to the blues. The first was the ancient Negritic style from West Africa, which incorporated a lamenting song style accompanied by repetitive motions and the sound of manual labor. The repetitive motions produced a swinging rhythm that was later typical of the blues. The other style identified by Kubrick was the Arab Islamic song style from the people of the West Sudanic belt. The Arab Islamic style was a combination of voice and instrument, often with the instrument complementing the voice in a call and response style, similar to blues, and also incorporated the bent or pitch-altered notes also found in the blues. Additionally, the familiar 12-bar blues style incorporates elements of both Negritic and Arab Islamic styles. Each of the 4 beats in the 4 bars might be repeated, bent, broken, or ignored. The vocals start at a relatively high pitch, then descend with the rhythm being slow and having a swing of the Negritic style, while the instruments and vocals create a musical call and response similar to the Arab Islamic song style. Both the Arab Islamic call and response style and the swing of the Negritic style, along with the interaction of voice and instrument as seen from the people of the West Sudanic belt, helped bring an element of African music into the blues. The call and response in blues was typically between the vocal and the instrumental parts of the music, blending in such a way as if the two voices were carrying the melodies instead of one. So in summary, the music of Africa was an element of life that enslaved Africans brought to the Americas. In the southern United States, the spiritual with the call and response and percussive offbeat phrasing provided a continuity with the religious music of Africa. In later years, the blues incorporated not just the call and response musical style from Africa, but also the slow swing rhythm, bringing the vocal and instrumental rhythms together in harmony. The musical styles of the spirituals and the blues kept a part of the African heritage alive for their descendants in the Americas, leaving a profound impact on American music. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to support this content further, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description below. I'm Darius Spearman, and until next time, I'll see you in the comments.
So I made sure to play that whole video out because I want you guys to support. It's the channel is called African Elements. I want you guys to it's called African Elements with Professor Darius. I want you guys to check them out. Subscribe. I came across the channel the other day. I was studying some traditional African music styles, and I came across them. So I thought I'd bring it up here for Shoot the Breeze. But that's not the only link I have for this prompt. This other video, it's too long to play in its entirety, so I'll play just a few minutes of it. Some of you will recognize this video. So we'll watch it and then we'll talk about it.
Well, Zydeco for me is a family thing, you know. My father and Clifton Chenier, I was a little bitty boy, and they was doing this in 1955. I wasn't here yet. My dad was always the headliner of our band. And when he got up there, he could get in front of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people and perform. As a matter of fact, he passed August 26th of 1993. And my first show was September 4th of 1993. My first show was Johnstown, Pennsylvania, with B.B. King and Clarence Gatemouth Brown. But for me, I'm getting up there the first time with his accordion on, and I'm nervous. So B.B. King brings me to the back. He says, son, let me tell you something. Just pretend your father's right on the side of you. He said, Dupes was a very, very good friend of mine. So it's like, okay, Mr. BB, but I'm still nervous. I was like, oh man, this ain't gonna be good. Then the people were like that, they were waiting. And it's like people saying, we know what Rock and Dupes could do, but what can you do? What can David do? My brother Tyke on drums, David on washboard. And the band was behind me, and they didn't know. It was like, okay, and they say, if you mess up, we got you. And my first note, I hit it, and it was a go, and the people just started clapping, and everything just started coming in, and I felt my father was right with me. I didn't say that in French, I had the chills. And from then, I never looked back. Next weekend was the San Diego street scene and stuff, and from there, we just kept going and going and going and going, and here we are today, Louisiana and around the world. We're going to be back. We here, but we're going to be back. Promise you.
There was one machine for my baby, yeah. There was one machine for my mighty, yeah. There was one machine for my baby, yeah. Right on me, la wide on. She gon' live on the land that you won't get, or on more my family, more to say. Gon' live on the land that you won't get, right on me, la wide on.
I hate to cut that. Believe me, because I'm a music guy, so I hate to cut that. But for time's sake, I just want to add one more thing, because I'm reading some of the comments, and our brother Jigan is out there, and he said the fact that we have to go 400 years to answer the origin of hip hop is very telling. And I want to share this. I saw this just minutes before I started tonight's show. I just want to share this. I saw this on Twitter. I want to share this with you. So this is a tweet from Voice of Our Ancestors channel. And it says, did you know these were Fela Kuti samples featuring some of your favorite artists? This is a 2.5 minute, it's a 2-minute thing. I'll play it, and then
I know one buy, I know one die, I know one payment, I want enjoy, I want job life, I want buy motor.
We know one die, we know one wound, we know one quench, we know one groove. I get one child, I'm a different house, my body.
Freedom of jail, clips inserted. A baby's being born, same time a man is murdered. The beginning and end. As far as rap go, it's only natural. I explain my plan. If you call a woman African woman, no go green.
If you call a woman African woman, no go green. She go say, I be lady yo.
Women come in the spot, them wonder. Them that's the boy looking around with big. Them girls be plotting.
My people say they fear too much. We fear the thing we not see.
My people say they fear too much. We fear for the thing we no see.
All over the world, hearts pound with the rhythm. Fear not of men because men must die. Mind over matter and soul before flesh. Angels.
Yeah, everybody run, run, run. Yeah, everybody scatter, scatter. Yeah, pass it down, catch it fire.
Yeah, everybody run, run, run. Yeah, everybody scatter, scatter. Yeah, some people lost some bread.
When I they strive and I they hustle, waiting I they buy. Kaluba they buy.
When trouble sleep, young God go wake up. Waiting they find.
Alaba.
Wonderful stuff. Yeah, this is awesome. So I thought I'd bring that as a SANKOFA post. I'll try to do this every Shoot the Breeze, bring a SANKOFA post, go back and bring it forward again, you know. Really was liking that Zydeco video as well. That's called the 38th annual Original Southwest Louisiana Zydeco Music Festival. I'll let Buana talk about it when it comes up, but that music is very similar to music that he and I and Daily Affirmations by Pauline would be familiar with, but we'll talk about that more in a second. Let me introduce our newest panelist. That'll be Jose Bronze. Jose, how are you this week?
Good evening, good morning, good day where you are. I'm kind of okayish. I'm woke again in the middle of the night, and here I am. And how are you, fellas?
I'm good. Thanks for coming.
No rest for the wicked, huh, Jose?
Again?
no rest for the wicked, huh?
No.
Peace, Jose.
No. And the joints ain't working either.
Jose, the African origins of Black music. What say you to all of what you just saw?
I typed in a reaction like, familiar. I saw familiar music in Haiti, but now I'm looking at guys on the stage, and I think like, well, those are the same elements as one of the two music traditional music styles of the region, Funana. But it's other music, right? It sounds blues, but the same elements are on stage, like the little harmonica that's also played in Haiti, but we use it in Funana. And the guy with the metal on his chest. Only with us Cape Verdean, it's a stick with the teeth, right? But it's not like a chest piece, but it's a stick that we use in the same manner. So it's yeah. I mean, how come? How come? Why do these elements always come back? And a harmonica in my growing up, a harmonica is really a typical European thing. Like it's also a Dutch traditional instrument where they have those piano keys and hundreds of those little buttons. But this one that we're looking at in the video, that's exactly the harmonica that we use. And that's exactly the harmonica that I saw in those videos about Haiti. So I'm enjoying this too. I'm feeling like really, yeah, kind of happy seeing this, right? But yeah, I don't know what to say. I'm just overwhelmed or whatever. I'm happy. I'm happy to see this. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Jose. Yeah, like Trigger Happy said, most European instruments come from Africa, though. Only a few that didn't. They just made some modifications. Like the piano is an African thing. Like we would sit up here. I was just talking to my children about this, my sons about this early today. Like we would sit up here and think. And by the way, this guy Great House on Twitter did a great post. I wish I could find. I think it's on the Discord actually, on the history. Great post about this, but like 90% of the instruments that are out here really came from Africa. That's a very interesting thing. Like even the piano, most of us would think, hear piano and we think about Mozart or Bach or something like that, but that's just, in fact, the piano that we had was a little too complicated for them to use. And they had to modify it and simplify it. It's a very interesting history, man. With that said, see, Trigger Happy knows what I'm talking about. He says, I can find it because that's where I found that fact and looked into it. Absolutely. Yeah, if you could find that, Trigger, and post it, I'll put it up on screen if you don't mind. With that said, let's go to Black Steel. Black Steel, what's it?
Well, first thing I want to say is take that, FBA. Take that. But yeah, it's it kind of goes without saying, right? Africa, since we are African people, right? And I think that it's almost understood that, of course, Africa having the most rhythm, having the drum and creating instruments, this is something that is just, I mean, it just feels so familiar. Even when he was singing the gospel songs, I felt, it took me back to my, going to church with my mom and my grandmother as a kid, or the blues music, African people brought the only original form of music to America, right? Everything else was brought from Europe, you know. That's the only thing that could be said to be created in America. But then at the same time, it wasn't created in America so much as that the foundation came from Africa, which is the foundation of pretty much all of our music and our art forms. So it just kind of underscores the fact to me that we are one people and we have more in common than we have that differ between us. I think that's important for us to understand. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Short and to the point, huh? Black Steel. I appreciate that though. I want to share something real quick before I let Buana go. Let me share this screen with you guys. I want to share this just so you guys have a understanding. Because if Buana talks about what I imagine he will talk about, this will be kind of important. Let me share this screen with you. This is a video called How to Rake and Scrape. And you guys will understand it in a second.
Okay, if you want to do the rake and scrape, you must have your saw. And if you don't have a screwdriver, you can use a butter knife. Actually, I don't have my screwdriver with me, so I'm using a butter knife, all right? And if you can pull the saw out, you get a sound from that, all right? And if you bend it, you get a different sound. Then you must hold your scraper up and down and give you a different rhythm, okay?
Yeah, rake and scrape, nice, man. Buana, SANKOFA, the African origins of black music. What's it? Buana, you're muted if you're talking. I don't know if you're talking or not, but you're muted.
Man, you gotta get a refund. Man, you gotta make sure you pay your bill on time, man, or get a refund.
Yeah, Buana kind of messed him up tonight now, man. I really want to get Buana to go then. But you guys see what I was showing you. That's a musical genre in the Bahamas called rake and scrape, where the saw is used akin to what Jose described when he says a stick with teeth. I wanted to bring that up because that's what that is. That's that percussion sound that's used. And in the video that's playing currently on the screen, you see the guys with like the washboard on their chest. That's that same effect. That guy in the back there with that thing on his chest, that's the same effect. I tell you, when you look at these musical concepts, it all points back in one direction. And it's so silly that we have these divisions and we try to ignore the truth that's just plainly in front of us. Buana is back. Hopefully Buana is working. Buana, what's it? Yeah, Buana, your connection ain't cooperating tonight. So in the chat, TriggerHobby262 Plus says, music shows that black people are a geocultural group. Many try to argue that our identity is only based on the land, but our cultural interconnection is pretty evident. I thought that was well said. Juan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hopefully you could hear me. Koku, when I see stuff like this, right? This is the reason why I would rather have conversations with my brothers like Anthony, because Anthony is a well-informed. Because if I was to tell was literally rake and scrape, an American or a Black American may not understand what rake and scrape is. Okay, so now I have to break down and explain and do all those things. But because he has an international perspective, Anthony has an international perspective of the Black world. So he'd understand where I'm coming from when I look at these Louisiana brothers and I say, well, that's rake and scrape music. From the xylophone he using to the washboard that he making music with, that's rake and scrape music. It's at a different tempo, but it's rake and scrape music. If I was to tell people that a lot of the songs that they've been enjoying for years, like Mos Def uses many samples from Fela Kuti. Not only Mos Def, Common from Fela Kuti. In fact, Black Star, you know what I mean? They use a lot of samples from Fela Kuti. It comes as a surprise when you tell my sister that that a piano is African music. That was news to her. She didn't know that. So most people know the music they've been hearing for many years to James Brown. James Brown created all of it. So I don't get mad at people no more. I try to have conversations with the well-informed people because I know that they understand music a little bit deeper than the regular man on the street. You know, like I was telling you earlier in the chat that Army Arrangement by Fela Kuti yet. But they hear Babyface saying, "This is for the cooling you." That beat, cooling you. That's Army Arrangement by Fela Kuti. Now, many Americans years ago, but they don't know who the hell Fela Kuti is. But Babyface got that beat from Fela Kuti. So we always exchange our musical genius, our musical talents. The Black Americans, for me, the best musical art form they ever created was the blues, bar none. And I'm including hip hop in that. That's the best music they ever created for me personally, on a personal level. But the Brazilians, samba all day. Samba all day. You know, they have another form, bossa nova. Bossa nova is what the Blacks in Brazil created. The Jamaicans, enough reggae. The Trinidadians, thank you. But all these things come together to create a format that we all inherited from the African continent. Whether we want to dismiss that connection, in the African wheel, we are just a spoke. And I just say that it's important to carry on the tradition of our ancestors, whether they are in the Western world, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, in Southern America, or whether they are in Africa. We express our genius around the world. I'll leave it there. I hope you can hear me, brother. I hope you can hear me, but I'll leave it there.
Yeah, we hearing you mostly. It just cuts out sometimes. Thank you for that, Juana. Yeah, that's the connection I wanted to show our brother Anthony McPhail here, because dude, Anthony will then love. If this is the music that Anthony loved. By the way, Anthony was the one who gave me this video some time ago on Instagram. I think you would love to hear Rake and Scrape music. With that said, Anthony, SANKOFA, the African origins of black music. You've heard everything everyone else had to say. Anthony, what say you to all of it?
Yeah, man. Hey, I was kind of laughing at Koku a little bit. Hey, Koku, don't be mad at me. I was laughing at you a little bit. I was laughing the way when you said the word, when you were saying Zydeco, it's Zydeco.
Oh, my bad.
You hear me, Koku?
Zydeco. Yeah. My
Hey,
bad.
no, it's all his fault. Hey, it would be me trying to pronounce a Bahamian word. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's Zydeco. The word is Zydeco. Just say it like it's Zydeco. What it means, Zydeco, like in South Louisiana, Zydeco is a snap bean. That's what it is actually. It's a snap bean, a green bean. But that's what it is. It's Zydeco. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the first things I wanted to say was that it just listen at it, Koku. Like, you know, when you listen at the music, listen at that music, and you could tell, and you could hear the Caribbean origin of it. You know what I'm saying? You can hear it. You can hear it. You can say, man, that's something that I done heard and maybe like in Martinique, in Guadeloupe. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe, you know, maybe in Trinidad and Tobago or somewhere in the French-speaking Caribbean. You know, in other parts of the Caribbean. You know, you can listen at it and tell. Because we got to realize one thing. Oh, let me turn this thing on. Realize one thing, that in South Louisiana was a melting pot of cultures. You know, and I'm talking about, from people all over the world, but especially from the Caribbean. It was many people from the Caribbean, people from Haiti, and people from all over the French-speaking Caribbean. Now, hey, Koku, back in the early 90s, in the 80s, we used to have an international music fest down in South Louisiana, like down in Lafayette, and it was like a francophone thing, you know, because you know in South Louisiana a lot of people speak French. You know, French is like an official language. You go everywhere you go. One of them been there. Me and Borna talked about this. You know, you go in from Lafayette to New Orleans. You know, on the buildings you're gonna have words in French and words in English. So I mean, it's a strong French language culture down there. Okay, but back in the 90s and 80s, we used to have festivals where it was people from Haiti, people from Martinique, Guadeloupe, people from Dominica, you know, people from French Guiana, you know, I mean, even and brothers and sisters from Africa. They used to come down. They used to come to New Orleans, come to the fest. It was like a francophone fest, and it was all of these groups, you know, playing their music. And a lot of times they sung in French. No, they sung in French. But like yeah, I mean, it was just a blending of a lot of cultures, man, a lot of African cultures. Like I said, I remember me and Buana and Kofi was talking, man. We did a show together. And like I was telling him, like in New Orleans, we had this thing called the Mardi Gras Indians. You know, now we'll get past the Indian part, but we just gonna get past some of the stuff they said. Now, in the origins of the Mardi Gras Indians, in their music, because see, they had songs that they would sing. Okay, there was this one song, it was a song about the Big Chief, where they had a part in the song where the lead singer, it's the call and response thing, where the lead singer, he would say, Madaye da Kudifayo, and then everybody else would come in and say, Tina ye, Tina ye. Okay, that song came from, guess where? Trinidad and Tobago. Because there was a brother from Trinidad and Tobago who came to New Orleans and he was one of the early contributors to the culture, to the music of the Mardi Gras Indians. No, brother, he was from Trinidad and Tobago. The early 1900s. But anyway, like I said, the culture is diverse. You're gonna hear the sounds of West Africa. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna hear the sounds of the Caribbean, which is also West Africa, Central Africa. And and so, you know, anytime, you know, and there was another thing I want to say real quick, like what in the video, in the first video, Koku, where the brother was talking about the music, I kind of like pushed back just a little bit on something that he said about the Arab Islamic influence, I'm not saying that it wasn't one, but I'm saying he was talking about that, you know, like in relation with like the blues, I think with the blues part of the music. Okay. Now, I know that if you listen to early blues, whether it's in Mississippi and, you know, here in Louisiana, you know, because we had it too. I think we had it before they did. But I'm saying if you listen to blues, okay, see, one thing, okay, in Louisiana, we had a lot, the early Africans that they brought here, many of them was from West Africa, from like the Senegambia region and from Mali, Bambara people. The Bambara people had a tradition of what they call griot music. Griot, have you heard of that, Coco?
Yes,
Coco?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, me too.
Okay, griot music. Now the griots, these guys were like traveling. They were traveling musicians. Okay, and I've heard listening to some of the music from the '80s of King Sunny Ade. Listen to some of his music. Okay, the griot tradition. It was a song. They had a tradition of like a man singing about love lost, about a woman who that he was with, and that he had a love that was lost. That's the blues. That's the blues. You know, thinking about a woman I used to have and how she gone and I ain't never seen her no more. But that's the blues. You know what I'm saying? And if you listen to some of that griot music from Mali, even today, like especially listening to some of King Sunny Ade music, griot music, and then coming down and listening to some B.B. King or some Bobby Bland. You know what I'm saying? And you could hear the connection. You can see the connection. No, B.B. used to talk about that African connection, but you can hear the connection. So when I hear anybody else, you know, these Negroes running around and talking about, yeah, this high music and FBA, this high music and we invented and we created and all this. No, man, that came from everything we black people culturally created in America came from Africa. It came from Africa, and sometimes it came from Africa via the Caribbean, because a lot of our people Caribbean heritage. But yeah, man, yeah, I'm glad. I want to thank you, Coco, for showing that video, man, about the Zydeco. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people ain't on it. You know what I mean? I think I asked Barner about it when we did a video. He said, I don't know if he told me that he heard about Zydeco or what. But yeah, man, you know, that's how I love Zydeco music, man. You know, I just want to thank you for the prompt, man, and you know, I'd knock off right there, Coco.
I appreciate you. Thank you for sending me that video. By the way, I could laugh at you back because it's Trinidad and Tobago, not Tobago. But yeah, I think I've heard of Zydeco out of like Dominica or somewhere too. You know, one of those islands in the Caribbean actually. And by the way, St. Lucia used to. I don't know if it still does it since COVID, but St. Lucia used to have a big world blues fair every year. A lot of the big blues heavy hitters in America used to be there. So yeah, I think there's an appreciation definitely from Africa to the Caribbean to America and back by many of us. In fact, I like what Trigger Happy said here to what Anthony was saying. He said that's basically the intercolonial slave trade, which destroys the idea that there is a pure Black American. The combination of African ethnicities and the combination of the Caribbean makes Black Americans. So it's all one thing. Let me just share this last thing before I ask for any last thoughts here. Oh, did I grab it? Let me see. So I think the original tweet was kind of taken down, but this video of this white guy talking about instruments is still up. So what we'll do is I'll share it with you guys. This is from Great House. He posted this from a professor. We'll watch it and we'll discuss it.
If you're admitting that's the founding of your civilization, that's a really strange thing. You could do this as an exercise. Try to figure out your favorite musical instruments, all of them, and then look at who invented them. About 85–90% of the musical instruments on the planet today were invented by the ancient Egyptians. So if you're into music, like, how can you ignore that? The rest were invented by Persians, although the Mesopotamians invented the bagpipe. Do you want me to say that again? It wasn't the Celts. When the Celts were migrating through Mesopotamia, they heard the bagpipe and they went, oh, that is a nice sound. They grabbed it and took it across North Africa and then invaded Europe. One time I had a CD with bagpipe music. I plugged it into my car. I had an Irish friend, Connor, and he was in the car with me. And I said, listen to this. And he's like, this is really strange bagpipe music. And I'm like, does it feel like Ireland? He goes, yeah, a little bit. It was Tunisian bagpipe music because the Tunisians still play the bagpipe.
Yeah, so I just wanted to show you, even those people tell you most of the musical instruments come out of Africa, and that Trigger Happy just beat me to it. That Persian thing he talked about, there was a lot of black people in that Persian thing too. Does anyone have any last thoughts on this prompt though before we move on? Okay, seems like we don't.
Yeah, only that it was an excellent prompt, Koku. Whoever suggested it, Anthony, big up if you did. That was an excellent prompt. Excellent.
Appreciate that, Buana. And if you guys have any book suggestions on further study of traditional African music, send them my way. Join the Discord. Let me know what it is. And if you have them on PDF, definitely send it my way. Apparently, Trigger posted an article. I'll have to go back and grab it. So you guys could check out that article when you have a chance. With that said, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says, Rabbi Solomon Friedman, this is a complete departure from what we just talked about. Rabbi Solomon Friedman explains strategy to normalize porn in the West. This came with a link that takes us to Twitter. So this is from the AF post. It says, owner of Pornhub, Rabbi Solomon Friedman, explains strategy to normalize porn in the West. This is a 3-minute video. We'll watch it, then we'll discuss it.
Out of all the businesses you guys could buy, why did you guys target buying Pornhub?
Yeah, so we saw an extraordinary opportunity. The fact that it's newsworthy or noteworthy that we've made the acquisition, that should tell you that this is a space that has not had mainstream investment, right? That it's a space, I always said, when we looked at the business, it's a business that's legal. Not only is it legal, but in every Western democracy, it's constitutionally protected. It could not be outlawed, even if you wanted to, but it doesn't have that legitimacy. And one of the reasons for that, and as we started to examine the business further, was that nobody wanted to say we are the owners of a major adult company, right? Everyone, they wanted the benefits of owning a major adult company. It's a profitable business, but nobody wanted to be out front and engaging with other tech businesses, with government, with law enforcement, with regulation in that sort of way that the modern tech industry has to. So we saw in that this arbitrage opportunity, right? Where if people who come from the mainstream professional networks, whether it's law enforcement, tech, finance, et cetera, this is an opportunity to really bring this industry into the 21st century. We saw an extraordinary opportunity to do that with this, this jewel of an asset, Pornhub, but obviously the entire company.
I love it. You said jewel of an asset. So I'm going to give you some stats here that we see. So one, it says 2018, Pornhub alone witnessed a jaw-dropping 5.8 billion hours of content consumption, which, by the way, is kind of strange because most men should only be watching for a minute or two, right? But this is like when you hear 5.8 billion hours.
Patrick, our average visit is about 10.5 minutes.
They probably got off the computer and they left the website on, but there's a different story there. So that's nearly 665 centuries of material over a single platform in just 1 year. Here's another one for you. The world was flocking to Pornhub in 2018 with a whopping 63,992 new visitors per minute. Is that true? 63,992 new visitors per month.
Doesn't sound unreasonable.
33.5 billion visitors. Insane, right? Mm-hmm. And the most popular day to visit Pornhub is Sunday. You guys got all these different stats. And you even put up a stat recently on which state consumed the least while the election was going on and who was committed to it. So you're also involved in the election stuff that's going on, right? But at the same time, you got a petition. I think something came out that says more than 2.2. Thank you so much, Kelly. More than 2.2 million people have signed an online petition to shut down the site. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that the topic of pornography has always been a divisive one. I think it has to do with the topic of sexuality in general, right? There are always going to be different views about human sexuality, and pornography is just emblematic of those. In fact, it's a little more public. It's more in your face. That's the nature of it. It's sex for the public. So you're going to have people who have really deeply held convictions about the proper place of sex in our society, and that's a good debate. There's nothing wrong with that debate. But you take 2.5 million signatures, we have 130 million daily active users. So people have voted with their mice and with their feet in terms of where they're going to go. But of course, it's going to be a subject of public debate.
Very interesting. Again, Rabbi Solomon Friedman, right? Owner of Pornhub. I believe this had another part to it. So yeah, this person, Imperial Groiper, posts this. He says, merchants of filth. So apparently one Al Goldstein, the publisher of Screw, said the only reason that Jews are in pornography is that we think that Christ sucks. Catholicism sucks. We don't believe in authoritarianism. Pornography thus becomes a way of defiling Christian culture, and as it penetrates to the very heart of the American mainstream. That's an interesting statement. So the main question I think I have for the
out of all the businesses you guys,
not only what are your direct thoughts on not only I'd like to know your direct thoughts on what you saw, but what do you think it's ultimately for? What does rampant pornography do to a society, do to a culture, in your estimation? I'm going to start with Buana on this one. Buana, what say you?
Oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble tonight. First of all, let me say this: I am not anti-porn. Matter of fact, after the Shoot the Breeze, I might catch a flick later on. But let me just say this. It's interesting that the Patrick David Bet, he says he's a Christian and a conservative. The conservatives, at the end of the day, they are money oriented. Money is really their god, because it's almost like this guy is gushing he's gushing over the monies, he's talking about the assets and the fact that Pornhub will receive a lot of money, especially with their investment, because there's a lot of advertisement dollars that goes into Pornhub, if people don't know. So as capitalists, we can't piece of Pornhub, because we know the fact that we have billions of subscribers on a daily basis. That means it'll bring in millions and millions of advertisement dollars. That is very important to the capitalists. But Patrick David have to keep it consistent. You can't say at one end you believe in the family, you believe in family values. You believe in family values at one end, and then he's saying that capitalism or nothing. So the fact that this guy is able to use porn to get millions and millions of family values aside, they become hypocrites. But for me personally, I am not anti-porn. I am not afraid of sexuality and sex. I am not afraid of exposing the female's body, because I believe it's a beautiful thing. Exploitation, what that exploitation actually means. It depends on who you're talking to. And you have to ask the women themselves, do you feel like you are being exploited? Because they say, well, I'm making $100,000 a year doing something that I enjoy doing. And some say that. So it's like, well, they feel like they're being exploited. So it just, that word exploitation, it just depends on whose mouth the idea of at 33 billion subscribers means a lot of money. If I started generating, a lot of money is going to come to them. So I think that we have to decide where we want to be, where we want to actually fall, where we want to actually fall. But I say that the conservatives are really making themselves into huge hypocrites, because these subscribership and a lot of advertisement dollars. Do I believe that pornography should be normalized in the West? It's already normalized. It's already normalized. If you have 33 billion people watching your stuff every day, it's already, the American consumer has already voted. They've already voted. So this is what many they don't admit to it. Western consumers, not only Western, because I watch porn too. Western consumers internalize these kinds of imagery. Should we take this and use this in our daily lives? No, we shouldn't do it. I don't think it's a bad thing, because most Black women are into certain things, anyways. But I think that you should use this cautiously and carefully, because this, like any other drug could be abused, and I don't think that you should really carry certain things out in your daily life and lifestyle. So I'll leave it there, Coco.
I appreciate that, 5-star. I'll say this though. The thing about porn, my personal take on it is porn is just like any other technology. It's about how you use it. Like I use the analogy all the time. You could take a hammer and build a house, or you could bash someone's head in. Porn is supposed to be viewed as a technology that transmits to you what's taboo, what's accepted, what's marginalized, etc., what's outside of the pale, and it's supposed to transmit some knowledge, like sexual health, and just sex ed knowledge overall. The problem is how porn is used, and the problem is how society drives many people to use pornography. It's become this crutch, as Trigger Happy pointed out in the chat. It fuels, this is his words, he says it fuels alienation, parasocial relationships, and many forms of people activity. Alienation becomes the end result with European thinking. I think that's an important note to add to what I was saying, that it's just misused. And so I would like to tell Black folks not to run away from it, not to hide from it, and to actually educate your children about it, about how you use it. It's not to be used frivolously, like a 5-star degenerate. It's supposed to be used to for your personal growth and your personal understanding of what's acceptable or not acceptable within your community, etc. So I just want to put that out there. I'm gonna go to Jose next. Jose, what say you?
I have a total different view. I think there's a lot of psychological. I'm looking for words. It's like something is under pressure, right? Something is under pressure, and under that pressure, I don't know. I don't know how to. I think porn is has to do with psychological, emotional complications that that come out of this life we live. Call it plantation, or call it barn, or call it urban. but I believe all types of porn is. I think porn is an expression from people don't I'm looking for words, but let me do it with the words that pop up, and it may come across a bit edgy, but I think porn has a lot to do with frustration. I think, and of course, I'm speaking for myself. Everybody speaks for himself and what he thinks, but I personally, I think watching porn, the type of porn that I watch, has to do with the past 55 years, and I am 55 years, and I think what I watch has to do with frustration, and so of course I'm going to project that on all people, but what I've come across is that reaction that Jews do it on purpose to undermine other religions or cultures or more moral values. So that in my view, that underlines what I think. So they target and fuel frustration in the fundament of family, in the fundament of human beings, human social interaction. So I see porn as undermining constructive human interaction. That's in short. Thanks.
All right, I appreciate that, Jose. With that said, let's go to Anthony. Anthony, what's you?
Yeah, cool. Okay, let me see how I'm gonna go like this. Okay, I pretty much agree with what you're saying. Okay, with that being said, okay, let's keep it real. As a young man, I'm 57 now. I'm 57 years old now. But I'm saying, as a young man, of course, like many young men, many black young men, I'm just talking about our people. Yeah, of course, when I was 17, 18, I was 16, 17, yeah, man, we used to sneak and look at porn videos. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, at that age, you're young, you just jumping off the porch. You know what I'm saying? And for a time, it became like a thing. Like, man, give me some porn video. Look at porn videos. That's better. I mean, I did it. I looked at it. But I'm saying, when I came into consciousness, though, when I came into first of all, I want to preface this by saying, that's their nature. Those Europeans, that's their nature. I mean, they degenerate by nature. I mean, I think for them, it's money. It's a business. Like I say, porn is a multi-billion-dollar business. So yes, it's the money. It's the money that's supposed, they do it. They'll do anything to make a dollar, to make money. If it's some money involved, yes, they're gonna do it. But I'm saying, but at the same time, we know that's their nature. They some degenerate motherfuckers. They degenerate motherfuckers. But like, getting back to what I was saying, as I came into consciousness, Koku, Buana, I came into consciousness. I mean, it's a certain thing. Okay, I know good and well, Koku, you got children. I know, okay, even when you was a young man, like I said, me and you, we probably close to the same age. Yeah, we was young men, yeah, we probably sneaked and looked at those movies and stuff like that. But I'm saying, I know for a fact, and I don't know you, I never met you, but I know for a fact, you wouldn't want none of your children involved in that bullshit. I know you wouldn't. Buana wouldn't want his children involved in that bullshit. None of us would want our children involved in that type of bullshit. Okay, to me, I look at it like this. And I go back to when you, Coco, when you and Black Steel used to have the book club. And going back to, my favorite of y'all shows, Dr. Bobby Wright, the psychopathic racial personality. And I think about that part where y'all was talking, when Carl was breaking down menticide. And remember when Dr. Wright said, all this shit, everything, all the subliminal shit, everything they do, everything that you see in the media, everything from commercials to everything they do is on purpose. It's on purpose. It's a reason behind it. They got a reason behind that shit. And I think that like with porn, like I said, once I started coming into my consciousness, you know, and I stopped letting sex, you know, overrule my mind and stuff like that. Cause you know, I mean, if you look at porn, it pushes a whole, it puts a whole lot of agendas. It pushes interracial shit. Cause you know, you got a brother who can go fuck white girls, you know, sisters who can fuck with them. And then it also pushes that, the girl on girl thing. And even now it pushes the boy on boy thing. You know what I'm saying? This gay shit. They got this genre that they had, the cuckold shit. Where a man sit and watch another man fuck his wife. You know what I'm saying? And do some weird ass shit after that. So I'm saying, I think that, like I say, I think it has a different effect on us as African people, black people, than it do them, because see, by nature, it's they shit. That's what they do. Here, you go back to the plantations. They was raping men and women. You know, them honkies was raping brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? They like to see all that kind of shit. Making sons and wives fucking. I mean, sons and daughters and, you know, all that degenerate shit. Because it's in their nature. You could go back to the ancient Romans, the ancient Greeks. All them old parties they used to have. You know what I'm saying? That old shit there, like, that's like when I see brothers and sisters in these organizations, these alphas and all this old shit. Man, don't you know there was some raping parties with the ancient Greeks and Romans. You know what I'm saying? It's in their DNA. It's just them because they degenerate people by nature. But I think that, to me, when I see this shit, I think I have to look at it as a black nationalist, as a Garveyite, as a Pan-Africanist. I have to look at it like this is an attack on the moral fiber of African people. That's what I look at. That's what I have to look at it that way. I ain't worried about nobody else. I mean, to make us, what's going on right now? They making Puffy, Sean Combs, the face of degeneracy. You know what I'm saying? Well, Sean Combs got his degeneracy from Clive Davis. And from all these other honkies. You know what I'm saying? The shit that Sean Combs was doing, guess who else was doing it? We watched Hugh Hefner walk around in a bathtub for 30 years. I mean, in a bathrobe for 30 years. You know what I'm saying? And at the grotto with naked girls all everywhere, and you know, and inviting Jim Brown and Kareem and all of them to have sex parties and shit. I mean, I think that this is something to destroy. I mean, it's a part of many other things to destroy the moral fiber of African people. You know, they try to destroy our families, destroy our family life, our family structure, the relationship between men and women. I mean, it's not the only thing, but it's one of the things. Even right now, remember the president in Kenya, one thing he did do good, not Ruto, but Uhuru Kenyatta, when Barack Obama was trying to push that homosexual shit on them. So now y'all got to recognize gay people and the LGBT thing. And remember, he laid there, he invited a whole bunch of a whole bunch of Kenyan people, and they showed a video of these two men having sex and shitting and doo-doo and all that kind of shit. And he said, he was telling his people, this is what they want us to accept. That's what he said, this is what they want us to accept. Remember, Obama said, if y'all don't loosen up the laws on the LGBT community and all this stuff, you know, and quit all that anti-gay shit, no, we're gonna have to withhold aid. Kenyatta said, well, fuck it, y'all keep that money. He actually did it. Y'all can keep it. And he laid there in front of his cabinet ministers and all of them and showed some gay porn shit. He said this is what and had them doing some of the most despicable shit you ever seen. And he was telling his people, this is what they want us to accept. And you know what? In society now, look, I mean, what they want you to accept now. Man, you look at porn, man, you see all kind of shit. They got the genre like these, they had the chicks with dicks and all those shit. You know what I'm saying? To me, they try to push an agenda. They're trying to push an agenda. So, you know, I'm like, you know, man, I don't need to go and watch no motherfucking porn. Yeah, I did when I was a youngster. But like I said, when I came into consciousness, and Bono, you a conscious brother. Goku, you a conscious brother. Look here. We ain't gotta go and watch no goddamn porn. We can go get the camera with our wife, our old lady, and go and make our own shit. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gotta watch that bullshit. But I'm just, and I'm not criticizing nobody for doing it, but I'm just saying we could do our own thing. But I'm just like, to me, I just, you know, I don't get it no more. Like I said, at one time when I was young and I didn't know no better, you know, hell, I used to watch it, nigga. I was a jack all king, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, right now, I mean, knowing what I know now, being, you know, as a mature man, a grown man, and a man with consciousness, and knowing love for my people, I don't see where that shit has, where it's relevant anywhere for us, man. You know what I'm saying? I think it's really, I think it's a disservice to us, and I think it's something that operates against us as people. Because you know what? Now you look at, I mean, even look at it right now in the music today. You got our young sisters and brothers, you know, like Sexy Red and all of them there. You know, they basically porn stars singing music. You know, all this disgusting shit that they talking about. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got them all right around there. Somebody, I might just do an OnlyFans. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Having sex on Instagram and shit like that, man. I'm sorry for going on so long, but I think it's bullshit, man. I don't think it's something that we as black people, as African people, need to need to accept. We don't need to accept that shit. You know what I'm saying? We don't even need to work with that shit. Man, we got way too much other stuff on our mind, you know, on our plate that we need to deal with. And I just don't think that, I just can't see, well, this, okay, yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar thing, but we ain't the one getting the multi-billions. No, it's them getting the multi-billions. We might get a couple of dollars, but I just don't think that this, in my opinion, no, I think it's bullshit. I think it works against us, and I'm sorry I'm sorry for going too long.
That's all good. I just want to point out too, the big reason for this prompt is that this is a religious leader from one of the Abrahamic religions that black folks that has a chokehold on Black equals African people. This is a religious leader. I just want to stress that too as we continue this conversation. Let's welcome in our Costa Rican brother Ditso this week. Ditso, how are you? Ditso, you're muted if you're talking. You guys got to remember to unmute your mics, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you again for sharing good conversations in this different matters. This conversation today, I'm just gonna make it very to the point. The use of erotica is as important and as relevant to human history as it is the idea of science or religion. Matter of fact, prior people have said it. We saw it in Rome, for example, in the Greeks, but not only there. Middle East had, and in fact, a famous book of that, of the Middle East, of Islamic nature, was the Book of Exposition, written by, well, accredited to famous writer of that time, of the 1500s, Jalal ad-Din al-Suyuti, 1445 to 1505, if you use Gregorian, or 114445, etc. Actually, this famous writer had at least 23 treatises on various aspects of the sexual arts 500 years ago in the Islamic or Muslim world, or however we want to refer it. Other famous example, the Indians, not the Indians of Farad, or the country normally known as in the Western, the Kama Sutra. So fundamentally, the position has to be an extremely neutral one, in the sense that the use of erotica or pornography that we today call is something that the human seeks out. And any moral imposition on that leads to the risk of bad practices, of exploitation against people, of leading towards criminality or towards the simple exploitation of human beings. That being said, yes, there's a delineation that we must do. Of course, we want to provide correct sexual education to children who are coming up on the and eventually will be adults practicing sex, and also be able to offer to those adults the possibility of utilizing the tools of erotica for their own pleasure. This being said, I do consider that the conversation of modern day pornography as it is cannot, and I repeat, cannot be seen by the eyes of a moral imposition. The Abrahamic religions are extremely hypocrite in regards to this. In fact, a prior speaker was talking about Africa, and in certain points there, I completely and utterly disagree. But if we look at the pre-colonial, before the Europeans arrived, we have recorded aspects that, for example, the Kuru warriors at the beginning of the hunting season, the rites of fertility and renewal of the Kuru warriors and how sexuality was practiced, or the Lovi people from modern day Ghana and Burkina Faso, who had an arousing dance ritual, which then led to potentially orgies in that sense. The Oshun, amongst many other examples that we could see, or the pre-colonial, then yes, we could have that conversation of how sexuality changed at the moment of colonial, both in Western Hemisphere as well as in Africa, or including Asia. But the point being here is that anywhere we look at the practice of erotica, because of either a religious response or a pleasure response, or a combination of thereof, is a reality that has been with us since pretty much the beginning. There's no work around it. So in this modernity, the use of pornography and how pornography is implemented has to be done in accordance with clear protections to those who practice the work, as well as those who consume it, with clear delineation as to this is something for adults who have the capacity of understanding that what they're seeing is just a projection of fantasy that can work by themselves or in a partner. The conversation about LGBTI, I think it's currently should not be pre-imposed into the whole sense of this conversation. That conversation of the LGBTI and the so-called conspiracy-minded idea that is pushing an agenda of the Western world, which it's absurd in every sense, because Western world, there's no such thing. One thing is the Western European, and another thing is the Western Hemisphere. But we have to be extremely careful in regards of enabling those minded conspiracies into a conversation that is a little bit more broader, and as I mentioned, extremely attached to the human reality and the human condition. With this, I conclude.
I appreciate that response, Ditz. I Juana said a great answer, and he put ha after, but I actually appreciated it. And I think it's in line with what I was saying earlier as well. In fact, I think Trigger Happy Someone needs to mute their mic. I think Trigger Happy is touching on it here. He says, I think sex is important and African culture understands that. I think pornography in its iteration fuels alienation, not just for the viewer, but the participants as well. Two things can be true. He goes on to say the first part of my statement is important because to me, Europeans being prudish about sex is what fuels their degeneracy as well. And that's the thing I'm trying to get at. This is why I say it's a technology. It's a tool that you want to use properly. What's happening now is we have, and black folks are becoming kind of prudish now too, because we're under this system of white hegemony. We become prudish that we don't even talk to our children about it. How many of you had your parents have a real conversation with you about sex, or about sex and pornography for that matter, right? I'm from an island. No one really talked to me about that until I was like much older. Until I was like 19 and checking gals, and someone, my grandfather had some words to me about that stuff. So I'm saying that, listen, like this so said, our people in general, the human condition, we're going to search and seek that stuff out, but we should have an apparatus. We should have a methodology, especially for our children who are coming up and becoming young adults, of how to properly use this thing. If you're going to indulge in it, here's the proper way to indulge in it. I just think that's super important. With that said, that takes us to, by the way, KWAZ7 in the chat says Zeus, the Greek deity, is a chomo. He kidnapped Ganymede. What's a chomo? I'm not familiar. You guys tell me in the chat. But also, let me address Frenchie. Frenchie, thanks for coming through. But Frenchie asked a question early in the chat. It's a conversation about adult entertainment. And Buana engaged with Frenchie, and Frenchie said, I'll leave you gentlemen to it. Now, I just want to touch on that briefly. These are not gentlemen's only conversations. In fact, many times these conversations, in particular this one, should have an African woman giving their opinion on it. Now, I've gone to the lengths to say, hey, Black women, African women, you are invited to join the panel. Click the link. I've done that enough times now. It's supposed to be understood. This is supposed to be a co-ed type thing. But it's been, for some months now, especially, it's been more of a male thing, and that's not really the intention here. The intention is to have a mixed bag. Just like we have people from all over the diaspora, we should have men and women from all over the diaspora. And this is an important conversation. I really would have loved to have heard a woman speak on this particular conversation, but alas, here we are. But with all that said, let's go to our brother Black Steel. Black Steel, I hope you heard everything everyone else had to say. What say you to all of it?
I did. I've been listening. I heard Anthony's impassioned plea about porn. And I really liked is it Dan Ditso? I liked his measured response to this topic, because I do believe that erotica, sexuality is an important part of the human condition. What bothers me, I think, is just how ubiquitous it is. It's really everywhere. It's to the point where I don't access Twitter or X at work or around my mother, because you never know when some porn is gonna pop up, right? I believe that what happens between two consenting adults is their business, and if people want to use, and another thing too about pornography, and kind of what turned me off of it in many ways, is that a lot of the women and men, but a lot of the women involved are coming from a history of abuse, right? So many of these young women who get involved in that lifestyle, they've already been exposed to some level of sexual abuse, sexual predation. So you're looking at really a lot of damaged people. Not to say that there aren't some women who just like to have sex, some men who like to have sex, and that's perfectly fine. But I think, to me, what kind of turned me away from it was that realizing, these people were coming from abusive households, who were molested as young girls, as children, and now we're seeing the effects of that. It makes them, sexually promiscuous. But that, to me, is why, you just say all things in moderation. I'm not saying it needs to be cut out completely, but two people consume. If you want to, do with your lady or with your man, I'm not anti-LGBTQ. If it's two grown adults, do it. That's y'all business. I don't really care. I'm not gonna join you. But that's what y'all want to do. Y'all have at it. Okay. But I do think that because it's so everywhere, and it desensitizes people to it. And let me get a little vulgar with it too, right? There's too much of a good thing, right? And if you expose yourself too much to that, then when you have an actual person in the bedroom with you, here you are trying to do some porn moves, right? Here you are trying to, pull off some stuff you've seen in the video. And the stuff they do in videos is done for theatrical effect. It's not really practical, right? The whole thing, putting the girl's leg up behind her head or putting her on the ceiling fan, all the other stuff, that's not feasible in real life. That's something that is done for effect. The person you're with pleasure isn't in mind. It don't have in mind. You jumping up and down somebody's esophagus like a pogo stick. That's not what
this
people
is a
really.
sick Negro.
This is not something that is done in real life. So I think what happens is that it's everywhere. It desensitizes it to you. It's no longer shocking, and then you don't view the person you're with no longer as a partner, but just merely just a receptacle for you to just use. And I think that's the danger of too much of this stuff in society, especially with young people who don't have the ability to process it. I was a young man. I know all about Janet Jackme and Pinky and all the other people, and Cherokee the Ass. I know, but
Black Steve, you know about Cherokee the Ass, but you know what?
But I'll leave it. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. But
I want to respond to Black Steel. Go
ahead.
Because Black Steel said something very important. Black Steel said that the pervasiveness of sex is everywhere. But I would only say to that violence is everywhere as well. There is a celebration of death everywhere on every street corner, everywhere in the Western world. So shouldn't there be a counter to that? Now, I understand you say, well, some people would say the exploitation of pornography is not a celebration of life. That's a valid statement. But sex itself is a celebration of life, because only through sex you could create life. But in every street corner, we are celebrating death and death culture, death music, genocide music to die to. So I feel that there should be a counterbalance. Now, the Western world has created something. Now we could criticize it. And how is this? Listen, bro, when I hear Anthony talking, I hear what he's saying, and I am because first of all, he's older than me. I respect his comments. I listen to them very carefully, even though I'm playful with it. I listen to the comments of Anthony because I respect what he has to say. He lived on this planet much longer than I have. So maybe he may be able to see some things within that industry that I don't see at my time, at my age. So I respect what he has to say. However, I feel like there's a yin and yang in everything, and there should be a counterbalance. And the world will be existing. There's a celebration of death culture, so there should be also a celebration of life culture. The Western world have created that. We have our criticisms on it, but until we have created a culture where we actually do celebrate life, I do not see something wrong with the female's body, her naked body, her body in all her forms. I don't see me relating to that naked body in a sexualized in a sexualized way as a bad thing. But see, I have gotten rid of my puritanical ethic that they conditioned me with. So that idea of a naked woman's body is not an offensive thing to me. I've let go of that Christianized ethic. So that a naked black female's body doesn't frighten me. It doesn't frighten me. I celebrate that. I connect that with life. So I respect what Anthony said, even though for me it's between Anthony and Brother Makari, boy, they emotionally blackmail me to death sometimes. But I understand and I respect their position. But I also respect Ditso's position, because as he would have said, that there was a culture of sexuality pre-colonialism. So man and woman in their purest form has always been attracted to sex and sexuality. So why should we now pretend to ignore in the culture that we exist in? So I just really want you to address that, because you're an intelligent brother. I want you to address that.
So just a quick question: How many stars of degeneracy was really on? What, 5-star degenerate? I think you caught up to him.
No, I was least. He was at least at 5. I was.
He's a 5-star. You might have caught up to him, Water. You might have. But no, you know what? I think what Trigger Happy said is about, blacks the same life as a people. That's very true. There's a lot of problems with the pornography industry, and it is an industry, and it's something like you said, it makes billions of dollars, especially as black people in the porn industry. Black performers get paid less in the porn industry just to sleep with white people. In fact, a lot of white porn stars, female porn stars, the minute they sleep with a black dude, that's it for their career. White men don't want to see that. There's a lot of problems with that industry, but I think the way it is now, it does reflect a lot of the degenerate nature of Western society. It's not about, just like you said, erotica has its place, but a lot of it is degrading. A lot of it is inhuman. There was an app that had to literally purge so many videos because they were connected to rape or abuse. When people have found family members who have been trapped, it was a white woman, I believe, whose daughter went missing, and she found her daughter on Pornhub. So people who've been trapped, people who've been kidnapped, are ending up on these in pornography. There's a lot of issues. STDs spreading like wildfire. This is supposed to be a industry where it's probably tested sexually every couple of weeks for STDs. It's not happening. A lot of these young girls who are coming out of high school, not even trying to do nothing, not getting a job, not going to college, going straight to porn because of because of the attraction of this easy money, not realizing that it's not something everybody is not built for this life. There's beyond just the physical. There's also a spiritual and a emotional connection to sexuality that I don't think is discussed enough. And when you do things like this, you leave yourself open to all type of negative emotions and feelings. And there's a number of pornography stars who commit suicide. A large number of them end up killing themselves because of what they've experienced in this industry. So I don't think that's discussed enough. The downside of it. Yeah, you cut it on. You clicking the topic you want to see, enjoy yourself, log off. But I don't think we discuss that enough, especially with our young people. We don't really discuss the downside of this OnlyFans and things like that, because they're looking at the easy money, but there's also a side of it they're not understanding as well.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I wanna share something too. Like it's the same subject as the same angle as I approached it the first time. So yeah, there's Bwana Agaziki. You associate it with Christianity. And that's like a kind of cognitive autopilot reaction, in my opinion, because tell me how does porn stand against the death culture, right? What is life? What life and happiness is promoted in a anal gangbang, 12 guys. The muscles of this girl don't work anymore at the end of the session. I saw something on X a few weeks or months ago about this girl talking about her first anal gangbang, and the girl that went before her. She walked out of the set with shit coming out.
Negro.
Yeah, that's some sick shit. That's not life, right? And what I'm trying to say, and I feel like forced, like to be more explicit about what I earlier tried to say. When I was young, right, in my early 20s, I used to watch anal, right? Women being taken anal, and what I liked about it, quote unquote liked, what I looked for was the expression in her face, and that's kind of fucked up, because there's something about dominance. It's not erotic. It was not erotic. It had more to do with dominance, frustration, in other, again, psychological, emotional complications. So no, porn. Yes, I watch it. I watch it, preferably with a partner. And this year I had something with somebody that clicked. But when it came down to it, I was more into what this other person and me could do together, as in producing. But the whole intention, the whole thing was about porn. So yeah, I enjoy sex, right? I have my freak. But let's be honest. Let's be serious. It does damage the fundament of what a woman and a man can do with each other. You can please each other in many ways, but that's not, what we see on these porn sites is not that. You have to really look for, you have to look hard to find some quote unquote decent man female interaction. Let's be honest. I'm sorry.
If I could intervene in that,
Nigga, stay aside.
Let's be brief, because I do want to get to another topic before we shut out. So Ditso, go ahead, and then whoever else wants to say something, follow right behind Ditso.
Okay, so gonna be fast, and I'm gonna resume a couple things. One, the idea of the Western world is actually a farce. Not only is a farce in the sense that it involves Eurocentric perspectives, which it mixes with the Western Hemisphere. Those are two completely cultural different worlds, and have been so for a long time. The problem there is that association of the United States with the Eurocentric sense. However, we cannot deny one simple thing: the influence of Abrahamic religions on the development on education of sexuality has been entirely negative. Has been pretty much responsible of perpetuating stigma and perpetuating stereotypes in regards of sexuality in itself. Second, if we look at modern day development of in the last, I would say, 60, 70 years of pornographic or erotica through the concept of this industry that today is strong. The positive is that they are more and more trying to self-regulate. However, we saw that the excuse on Measure B in California was a bit absurd, because Measure B was pretty much saying to make the use of condom obligatory on the scenes that they were doing. There are in modernity, we have to be clear on something. In order for industries to not fall into the exploitation of individuals, to not fall into the trafficking of those individuals, to not fall into horrible practices against the labor who gives that billions of dollars into reality, we have to ensure that clear and concise rules are set, and clear and concise punishment for those who break those rules are set. And we must do this ensuring the clear division of state and religion. Religion must not ever have any say whatsoever in the development of those policies. And very concise. With this, I conclude. I consider that the Western Hemisphere versus the Western European nations are not based on death. They're based on hypocrisy, and they're based on imposition of moralistic principles that clearly show that they are the route towards tyranny. And those moralistic impositions, as a counterpoint against freedom, against democracy, against the republics, shows to us the dangers of enabling moralistic, hypocritical positions based on prejudice, stigma, and stereotype that then become policies that then enable things like the failed war on drugs, or not allowing better policies to allow the industry to flourish, but to protect the workers within that industry. That's all I have to say.
Appreciate that, Did. So does anyone have any last thoughts? And let's keep it to the topic at hand.
That's all I'm giving you a round of applause, bro. That's such a brilliant analysis. Such a brilliant analysis. But look, like I say, for the other brothers who also gave their explanations on their positions, I respect your positions, but I just understand where, not because y'all consider me a 5-star degenerate, but because I understand the historical understanding of what Ditso is trying to say, even culturally. I'll leave it, Koku.
Appreciate that. I guess there's no other last thoughts. Let's go into what'll probably be the last topic of the night. I actually had another topic here, but I thought that this topic would probably be more important, so to speak. Should be topic number 4 tonight. We stand with KEMI SEBA. This came with a link as well. It takes us to YouTube. Let me just fix it. Takes us to YouTube. We'll watch about 10 minutes of this, and then we'll have a discussion.
Thank you for your presence. Today we are confronted with a situation that is very troubling when a man is found guilty for having written books and made speeches. KEMI SEBA risked 30 years in prison in France as a lawsuit being made against him by the French state in response to his position against neocolonialism and against the abusive regimes of the France Afrique, as displayed in West Africa. KEMI SEBA has been a militant for the past 20 years in a form which rejects any kind of violence, either explicitly or in his any of his actions. He's always used democratic tools such as public expression, marches, and other actions to make his ideas heard. I say this without any exaggeration that he is a victim of persecution. First, he was arrested on many occasions on the western part of the African continent in the puppet regimes which serves France's interest rather than the interest of the African people.
For those who may not be aware, Brother KEMI SEBA has been arrested and deported and banned from Senegal. He has also been arrested in Burkina Faso before Ibrahim Traoré took over. He's been arrested in a number of West African countries, brothers and sisters. So I just wanted to clarify that for you before we go forward. Let's continue with the press conference.
In addition, as a result of his militant commitment, he was deprived of his nationality, which was revoked in a measure which was introduced by Edouard Daladier under the Third Colonial Republic, who signed the Munich Agreement and created the concentration camps in which the Jewish militants were detained. This is ruthless measure coming from the colonial orders of the single state and double status, which were created based on the color of your skin. These measures are today used against a person simply for his ideas, his fight for freedom, and for his words.
So I need to do more research on what Juan Blanco has just said, but effectively what he's saying is that KEMI SEBA was arrested under a colonial law that was designed, specifically to persecute dissidents against the French state. Now I need to do more research on that, but just note that, and when we have the full translation, we'll come back and bring it for you, brothers and sisters, and clarify all of the details.
The revoking of his nationality is a measure which had not been taken since the 60s, and it was only taken a dozen of times without the use of jurisprudence. KEMI SEBA refused to back down, to beg for anything. He accepted the decision and responded in a symbolic and transparent fashion by publicly burning his French passport, and he continued to defend his position since his 20s. Today, this man is detained by the French security agency DGSI, General Directorate for Internal Security, which is the intelligence bureau of this country, in unpleasant conditions, as you could imagine. Deprived for.
So effectively, he was arrested by the equivalent of the French equivalent, of the FBI, and MI5, for those of us who live in the UK.
From freedom, according to me, for the past 48 hours. This could be extended to 96 hours before being presented to a judge. He is charged for a criminal offense for which he could be imprisoned for 30 years. The offense being the sharing of intelligence with foreign powers in order to provoke acts of violence against France and the interests of the nation.
So the charge, because many people, when Brother KEMI and Brother Heru were first arrested, nobody knew exactly what the charge was. A lot of the reporting didn't carry a charge. It was unknown what exactly they were being charged with. They were being charged with feeding sensitive information to foreign governments with the intent, to incur and inspire a violent reaction, brothers and sisters. This is what they were being charged with. And that charge carries a 30-year prison sentence. Okay? So now Juan is going to go on to share some very important information, though, about this particular charge, and its context.
The measure is for the military and is intended to be applied on soldiers or civilians. We saw this in the past where sensitive documents such as nuclear plant maps were stolen by people who worked for the intelligence agency. Of course, this is not the case for KEMI SEBA. This measure could only be applied to situations of provoking an armed conflict or you feel an existing armed conflict against France, or you try to destroy the security of its territory.
So effectively, this law was created to prosecute people who are working for the French government and its intelligence agencies. Yes, if you are in such a role and you share sensitive information, yeah, with foreign governments and or intelligence agencies, you will be charged with this law, and the full extent of the law will be imposed upon you. Okay, but the law is supposed to be for people that are working in such positions, is what Juan Blanco is informing us of here.
SEBA. This measure could only be applied to situations of provoking an armed conflict or you feel an existing armed conflict against France, or you try to destroy the security of its territory. Therefore, this is a particularly serious measure which does not apply to KEMI SEBA. Another condition against KEMI SEBA is the secrecy. KEMI SEBA has never operated undercover. To the contrary, he was often being criticized for openly teaming up with numerous geopolitical partners who act as a counterweight against the US and the West in general, such as Venezuela, such as Russia and others. He has.
Now, brothers and sisters, you will know that this is becoming a trend. We remind you of the situation regarding African Stream and the fact that they were effectively shut down on a number of different platforms under the charge from the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken of being a satellite or agents of the Russian state. Yeah. And what Juan Blanco is in fact informing us of is the fact that all of Brother KEMI's associations on the geopolitical level are very public, and this is true. Yeah. And he's also true. He's correct to say that some have criticized him for this. Even some of his supporters have been critical and or cautious about some of those associations. But it is also true to say, as he said, that these are all public. Yeah, none of this is hidden. There's no cloak and dagger behind these things. His associations with Russia, Iran, Venezuela, and other nations is very, very well known to everybody. Yeah, so there's no secrecy involved in this, brothers and sisters.
He's always emphasized the value of his geopolitical partners to help in the emancipation of the people of Africa, and never as a tool to be subjugated to another power. To that effect, he reminded that recently to the Russian authorities in Russia, in a public speech watched by millions of people online, in which he told them that if they were expecting to replace the old colonialist, therefore they should neither count on him nor on the African population, who would not hesitate to tell that they mean business. From this, a pretext is fabricated to destroy this man and put him in jail. And also, as a revenge, many French leaders feel following the collapse of their France Afrique policies, which funded the African and French elite for so long.
So just to clarify, because there may be brothers and sisters in the audience who don't understand or don't know of the context of the franc CFA or the Franco-Afrique or the CFA franc, yeah, which is effectively a French currency that has been imposed as a neo-colonial tool on nations that were formerly colonized by France since the 1960s. And Brother KEMI SEBA has been at the helm of the movement in recent years against this currency, trying to remove this currency from use in about 14 African nations, yeah? And because of that, a mass movement has been arising in many of the French-speaking African nations. And Brother KEMI, as well as Urgence Panafricaniste, as well as our sister Natalie Yam, and others have been at the helm of that particular movement. And that has only risen even further with the alliance of the Sahel states, and Niger and Mali and Burkina Faso criticizing this particular currency and moving to remove it. Yeah, in fact, even before that, there was some dismantling of some of the frameworks around the CFA franc. It was also a part of the campaign of Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko in Senegal. Yeah, and another day soon we're going to be going into exactly what is taking place in Senegal. Just to say for today, however, that a significant point in their platform was the severing ties, yeah, rupture, yeah, severing ties with France, the neo-colonial government of France, and getting rid of the CFA franc was a part.
Yeah, so I definitely wanted to play enough of that where Shakarab, touches on the idea of what when the French say French interests, that's what they're talking about. That last part with the CFA franc, that's what they're talking about, the French interest. So just wanted to make sure to get that in there. So should be something before it says we stand with KEMI SEBA. Let me mix it up a little bit. Let me start with Anthony this time. Anthony, what say you to what you just heard?
Yeah, brother Coco. It's some kind of disconnect. Coco.
Yeah, Anthony, go ahead. You're on the panel twice. I don't know why, but you're on the panel twice. Let me remove one and see if that helps.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I've been following it, man. I'm a supporter of Brother KEMI SEBA, man. He's one of our biggest voices, man. On the scene today, man. For African people, man. So he's a great brother, man, and he travels all over the black world, man, all over the African world. I mean, he's been to Haiti, he's been to Martinique. He goes to Martinique a lot, man, because there is a thriving black movement, black consciousness movement in Martinique. And all over France, it's a thriving movement all over France, and and with everything that's going on now in France, trying to hold on to his to the neo-colonial empire that they have in Africa, and with the brothers in Niger and Mali and Burkina Faso saying the hell with that shit. You know what I'm saying? And with African people in France, like I'm saying the hell with that shit too. You know what I'm saying? I have much respect for him, man. Plenty of respect for him. And I think that we need to rally around him, man. Rally around him and do whatever we can, to make sure that that they don't run no bullshit down on Brother KEMI SEBA, man. Because it's not only that, they can lay there and put him in jail. Man, his life is in danger, man. I mean, KEMI, when you get a brother who's a truth teller like that, and I want to remind everybody, he will tell you himself, his ideological father is Khalid Abdul Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? He used to work with Dr. Khalid. Him and Dr. Khalid were friends, man. That's his ideological father, and he'll tell you that. I mean, they had a real close relationship, man. So, but yeah, man, I believe in Brother KEMI SEBA, man. I know we got to support him. His wife is a brilliant sister too, man. Who's supporting him. in every way that a wife should support her. She's a great woman, and yeah, man. I mean, this when I seen this, man. I seen it a couple of days ago, man. I was checking out Brother Shakara's show, man, on Kimbunga, and I was like, damn, what? But yeah, man. I stand with Kemi Saber too, man. I have nothing but love for that brother, man. Love and support for him, and I knock off right there.
I appreciate that, Anthony. Let me hear from Jose. Jose, what say you?
Yes, I follow this brother quite long, and around 2010, I landed in Senegal and fell in love with the place. Anyway, and I was there with Dutch people, to be honest, and they were into earth ships. And I came across the brother on that frequency too, and he was promoting some project of a small head north of somewhere between Dakar and Saint Louis, closer to Saint Louis. He was promoting a small head that was building a project, not completely earth ship, but it had some elements of it. And well, I kept that in the back of my mind, in the back of my head. They say in the Netherlands, but I don't know in English. But anyway, I remembered it, and then he was expelled from making a lot of noise. Message. And then he was expelled from Senegal for making a lot of noise about the Frank Shefa, and he's constantly you know those loud people. They do a lot of things, and they draw a lot of attention, and yeah, most of the time nothing happens. Right? I don't know. I've been also, I've been pro KEMI, promoting him like in those days. But I'm a watch from afar. I'm a watch from afar. I'm sorry. To me, he smells like Teen Spirit. Whatever he smells. But that's me. I'm not convincing nobody else. I'm just watching a noisy guy. And okay, now he's in France and he's locked up. And yeah, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I just keep watching from afar and promote IES, etc. Because that's the real deal. It's not so noisy, and well, the noise that's coming from IES is progress, right? Not how do you call it? What's the word? Man, starts with a C. Let me just use the word conflict, but it's not the word that I was looking for. But a lot of conflict, a lot of jugu around this guy, and I don't know. Controversy, right? A lot of controversy, a lot of noise, a lot of dust is being kicked. He's kicking a lot of dust, and you know what dust does? Dust blinds. That's all. I yield the mic.
Appreciate that, Jose. In the chat, TriggerHappy262, just to piggyback off what Jose is mentioning of Kemi's wife, he said, Trigger Happy says his wife speaks along the same lines of Africana womanism, with the idea of maternism, far from a feminist and more African-centered. But I only base that with Instagram captions, to be fair. KW Dawn 7 says the leader is the one who's closest to the enemy in pursuit. Thank you for that, Jose. With that said, let's hear from Ditso. Ditso, what are your thoughts on KEMI 7?
Okay, so very simple and straightforward. I met KEMI about 9 years ago in Martinique. I was in my tours of Caribbean, especially because my work here in the Western Hemisphere is related to Afro descendancy as well as indigenous in the matters of human rights. Let me start by phrasing in this way. What is being done to KEMI is nothing atypical from the European nations, especially France. We've seen it historically with Haiti, for example, with the Guyana, French Guyana, and not to mention the Franco-speaking areas of Africa. This being said, I think it is extremely important that the pressure is augmented against this type of imperialist idiocy of the European kind. But this being established, my conversation with KEMI showed a major difference between two anti-colonialists of two different continents. Because even though there were few things we agreed upon, we disagreed in many fundamentals, including the association with the Nation of Islam of Farrakhan, and the Afro-descendancy world in the Western Hemisphere versus what happens in the either African context or African descendancy, be it in Europe, Asia, or Oceania. In that sense, has a different world, but that is a topic for another conversation altogether. With KEMI, of course, I received the message, what was it, 4 days ago, about his arrest. And immediately through the channels we have, we are trying to mount the pressure and support the necessary pressure to have him released and do the right diplomatic pressures in that sense. I will do what I can on my side as best as I can. And at this moment, hopefully, I have not heard if he has been released or not. To be honest, I heard the news. There were other events happening that needed my attention, but I kept that on the back end. I will look up French or Beninese or any other newspapers that may guide me into seeing that. If not, I'll call my contacts and see if there has been any updates in regards to this. So as far as I know, the last 4 days, I think it was what, Tuesday or Wednesday he was arrested. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyhow, yes, we need pressure needs to be done regardless of my differences ideologically or not with him. But this action is contrary to the simple right of existing and fighting against the continuing aspects of either Western European neocolonialism or the gringo, aka United States colonialism, or even against Chinese and Russian colonialism, which was a major difference between him and I. I considered Russia and China to be imperialist countries also, but anyhow, that would be the point there. We have to ensure that this violation of his human rights do not go unchecked.
Okay, I guess Ditso's done there. Thank you for that. With that said, let me hear from Black Steel.
Well, I was unfamiliar with the brother. But I looked while everyone was talking. I did see he's been released as of October 17th, so he's out with no charges. So yeah, I definitely stand with him. He definitely is a voice for African people. It's a lot of our political prisoners are being locked up, and this is something that's been going on for a long time. Many of our revolutionaries, our leaders, our freedom fighters are spending decades in jail or being executed. So to me, this is just another example in a long line of repression. The person in the post mentioned African Stream as well. Our voices are attempting to be silenced. The powers that be are afraid. They're afraid and they're nervous, and they know they're losing control of the narrative. And they don't like that. They don't like the fact that the people they've oppressed for so long are speaking out. They don't like their organizing. They don't like their plotting their downfall. They don't like that. And when I see these situations where people are being arrested for speaking out and they're being put on fallacious charges, these are the actions of a frightened person, a frightened society. Like they know they don't control us the way they used to control us. They can't get us to do what they want us to do anymore. And that's why you start to see a lot of these reactionary groups starting to come about, because they know that more and more African people are waking up. It doesn't matter who you lock up. It doesn't matter what channels you try to delete. It doesn't matter who you kill. In the words of Fred Hammond, you can kill a revolutionary, but you cannot kill the revolution. And that's the reality that the West is coming to terms with. And that's why they're starting to attack so many of our people for speaking the truth. So I'm glad he's out now. He needs to watch his back, because I think they may try to send him to the upper room next. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I have that feeling as well that the next thing is they're gonna try to take that brother out. With that said, last but not least on this topic is Buana. Buana, what say you?
Yeah, so the only thing I would say is I like KEMI SEBA, but KEMI SEBA is making a mistake of what Omar Johnson is doing as well. They are trying to turn themselves into Jesus Christ. You're not a savior for all African people. Yes, you are a voice, but you are a voice in the wilderness by yourself. You make yourself stronger when you associate with an organization. You need to associate yourself with groups of people who are like-minded, not just you. Yes, you are a revolutionary voice, but anyone could take you out. What happened then? Marcus Garvey associated himself with the United Nations Improvement Association. Malcolm X associated himself with the Nation of Islam, and then after that, the Organization of Africans, the OAU. You have to associate yourself with organizations to make yourself bigger than just one man. One man will not rescue all of Africa, all the Caribbean, and African people globally, unless you try to become a superstar. You know what I mean? You try to become a superstar. Associate yourself, affiliate yourself with organizations. Therefore, if one man dies, another man could replace you to continue the plan and strategy or trajectory that you are actually on. What is Mr. Sebi trying to actually do within Africa? What is he trying to actually do? I understand KEMI SEBA has Pan-African organization, but when you think that, you don't think first and foremost of Pan-African Africanist urgencies organ. You think of KEMI SEBA by himself. When you think of Marcus Garvey, automatically you think about the UNIA. the one thing with the other, you can't almost separate. You can't almost separate Marcus Garvey from the organization that he was affiliated with. But even within KEMI organization, there's one man always associated with groups of other men, like-minded men. So even if Paris government or officials decides to get rid of him, there are so many other who could replace him. It makes that one man almost irrelevant. Yes, we love the character and person move forward on personalities and save Black America or the Caribbean. So despite the fact that we love these characters and the fact that they are great speakers, they have to associate and affiliate with more than one group of men. More than one group of issue that is very important, a very important one.
Buana, your homework for this week is you gotta get that connection fixed, brother. That the cutting out is
my connection.
Like I'm talking now, we still can't hear you. All right, you gotta get that connection.
Man, it's bad. Yes. Me, Coco, is where I am right now. But you know what I mean? Hopefully, yeah, brother. I'll leave it.
All right, I appreciate that. Not to, I ain't trying to come at you wrong or anything like that, but the connection, the cutting out is just too much sometimes. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt? We stand with KEMI SEBA. By the way, Trigger Happy 262 Plus points out, as Shakara was pointing out, that KEMI SEBA has a Pan-Africanist urgency organization he's a part of. So he's not solo dolo as much as some might think. Does anyone have any last thoughts on this prompt?
No, just thank you for giving us the news that he had already been released. I was still working on the news that I was received 4 or 5 days ago. So glad he's out, and now, each of us continuing our works in our own respective fields. Another day we'll have a more further discussion of that difference between Pan-Americanism and Pan-Africanism, and the reality in regards of how the ideology in Afro-descendancy in the Western Hemisphere is very diverse. So anyhow, I'm glad that he's out. Keep on the fight.
I wanted to add as last words is, you see, he's free. Think. But you know, keep supporting the movement, but keep an eye on this guy. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, I was picking up on that on what you were saying there, Jose. By the way, I know you just joined the Discord. Just navigate yourself to the podcast area where it says, the channel says Shoot the Breeze, and you can post topics, make the prompts concise, and add an attachment from either YouTube or Twitter or something like that. You can post topics that concern the Black equals African diaspora within Latin America at any time you want. I'll put them up as well.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm guessing there's no other last thoughts here. So before you guys leave the panel, do me a favor. Let's do some shout outs of something positive you witnessed, or something that positive happened to you, or something that happened positive in the African world. Let's get some shout outs. Chat, I'd like you guys to give you a shout out as well. I have mine. Mine is a shout out to Maurice Bishop, but more on that in a second. let's hear from Black Steel. Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
I want to shout out my community. We recovered from a really bad storm and things are starting to get back to normal. But we really reached out to people, people who needed help, people who ran out of food, people who just needed some place to stay. There was a lot of support from the community. So shout out to everyone.
Appreciate that, and thanks for coming through, Black Steel, as always. Jose, what would you like to shout out this week?
Shout out to us worldwide, that we may step aside on time, because I'm seeing them, I'm seeing they them radicalizing. It's always more comfortable to kick down and look for a scapegoat than to remove the hand that feeds you. And white folks are lied to just like everybody else, but they will never see the truth, because they are the image of good and beautiful, etc. So they have a huge problem. But as we have never been part of their imagery, so we have never been part of their market. Let's get out of their markets, out of their countries. They are about to kick each other's ass, nuke each other's cities, and we are urban people. So let's get out on time. Let's let them fix each other, and let us, with a young population, repopulate the world again. And that's what I give a shout out to. In other words, us.
Appreciate that, Jose. Ditso, what would you like to shout out this week?
Well, and part of my community, both indigenous and African descent in Costa Rica, we also had strong storms happening since the Hurricane Helene, and even before. We've been facing a lot of flooding and a lot of different natural phenomena here, and we've been working tirelessly to not only help within our own communities, but as well as outside communities as best as we can. It's been hectic, at least the last 3-4 months. So I'm glad that we are now entering the summer in my country, Costa Rica, trying to survive, and we're doing it as best as we can.
Appreciate that, Ditso. Anthony, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yeah, man. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to our ancestors, to our African ancestors, who made it possible for us to be here today. We give a shout out to Brother Maurice Bishop and Brother Samora Michelle. And I want to say that I learned a lot of things on the show. This was a great show tonight, Coco. It was a great show. It was an interesting show. I learned a lot of things, a lot of interesting things. And I want to give a shout out to the Republic of Burkina Faso. They just opened up their own their first pharmaceutical company in Burkina Faso. So now they'll be getting their medicine. They'll be having their own medicine, manufacturing their own medicine, instead of getting it from France and from Europe. And that's my shout out. I say everybody. Peace and bless everybody.
I saw that too. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Anthony, for being here tonight. Last but not least, Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
First of all, let me say I hope you can hear me, but shout out to Costa Rica and shout out to South Florida. I've been in a hurricane before. I understand what a hurricane is and what it does. So for the people there who are trying to put the pieces together, shout out to y'all, brothers. If y'all can, maybe y'all could put a link into how to donate to these areas in terms of the people that are trying to get resources and whatever they may need. That would be very good. As Anthony said, the shout out to Burkina Faso for their pharmaceutical lab. Also, shout out to Ngannou. Shout out to Ngannou for winning tonight. That's very important as well. I'll leave it there to be brief, Coco.
Yeah, your audio was perfect at the end. Yeah, shout out to Ngannou. He put a series of blows on my boy to finish that off earlier tonight. My shout out, like Anthony, is to Maurice Bishop. You know, I just want to read this. If you guys have to go, that's fine, because the show will be done right after this. But African Stream posted this as Maurice Bishop's message to Africans in the United States. Says today, the 19th of October, marks the 41st anniversary of Maurice Bishop's assassination. Reactionaries within his party had turned against Bishop, ordering a firing squad to execute the Caribbean revolutionary and leader of the Grenadian Revolution, along with several of his comrades. The U.S. government under Ronald Reagan used this as a pretext to invade Grenada militarily and put an end to their socialist revolution. This is a time to remember the words of the revolutionary Prime Minister, Maurice Bishop, who lived from 1944 to 1983, remarking in New York about the danger Grenada's revolution posed to the United States. Let me see. I think there's a video. I'll play it, and this is how we'll end the show tonight.
There's an interesting one that we saw very recently in a secret report of the State Department. I want to tell you about that one, so you can reflect on that one. That secret report made this point, that Grenada is different to Cuba and Nicaragua. And the Grenada Revolution is in one sense even worse, using their language, than the Cuban and Nicaraguan revolutions, because the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada speaks English and therefore can communicate directly to the people of the United States. I can see from your applause, sisters and brothers, that you agree with the report. But I want to tell you what that same report also said, and said that also made us very dangerous. And that is that the people of Grenada and the leadership of Grenada are predominantly black. They said that 95% of our population is black, and they had a correct statistic. And if we have 95% of predominantly African origin in our country, then we can have a dangerous appeal to 30 million black people in the United States.
I'll see you guys next week. You guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.